The wealthy and charming CEO Yi Yuzhuo, who never fails at his hunting games, unexpectedly met his match in the trending star Fan Jing. At this moment, Yi Yuzhuo is still in the bar, boasting to his friends that he'll take down Fan Jing within 3 months. He even proudly showed off intimate photos with Fan Jing from his phone. His friends immediately recognized that the photos were of the trending new star, Fan Jing. They noted that although Fan Jing is good-looking, he has quite a temper. They were surprised that Yi Yuzhuo managed to win him over so quickly. With a smug expression, Yi Yuzhuo stated that although he hasn't completely succeeded yet, he's about to clear this game. After saying this, he raised his glass, determined to succeed with Fan Jing, and everyone toasted in celebration. Yi Yuzhuo silently swore to himself that he would make Fan Jing willingly become his. Fan Jing was preparing for an audition, and his assistant comforted him not to be nervous, adding that seeing the green light felt very auspicious and today's audition would surely go well. Fan Jing didn't say anything, but focused on his script, feeling confident about the audition. The assistant suggested that if he passed the audition for this drama, he wouldn't have to worry about popularity. Fan Jing just smiled, feeling that he should at least give it his all. Before he could finish speaking, he quickly noticed danger ahead and loudly warned his assistant to be careful. They were about to collide with a red sports car. The assistant was so panicked that tears were about to come out, emergency braking and swerving along the way. Fan Jing's head hit the car window, almost causing injury. The assistant shouted for Fan Jing, who got out of the car holding his head, telling the assistant not to panic as he was fine. Yi Yuzhuo also got out of his car, apologizing while striking a pose, saying he was busy replying to a message and didn't see the red light. The attitude nearly infuriated Fan Jing, who immediately blamed the other for lacking common sense. But the other party focused on his beauty. Fan Jing checked the condition of the car on his own and thought it probably couldn't be driven anymore. Yi Yuzhuo, however, was observing Fan Jing from the side. He thought Fan Jing's eyes looked good even when angry. Fan Jing instructed his assistant to stay and handle the accident, intending to go to the audition himself. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuzhuo called out to him, suggesting he should check his health first. Fan Jing, a bit impatient, told him to coordinate the accident with the assistant and not meddle. But Yi Yuzhuo didn't mind Fan Jing's attitude and even brushed back his hair, thinking it was not good to audition while injured. Fan Jing touched his forehead and realized he was indeed hurt. Yi Yuzhuo told him to wait there and left alone. When he came back, he brought a first aid kit, saying he wanted to help him out. Fan Jing clearly didn't appreciate the gesture, saying he had a first aid kit in his car and could handle it. But Yi Yuzhuo felt since it was his fault, he must personally treat Fan Jing's wound. As he spoke, he tried to put a band-aid on Fan Jing, who refused, saying he wasn't used to physical contact. Yi Yuzhuo had to put on a pitiful look, saying he didn't want to be a bother but was worried. Fan Jing instantly felt he was in the wrong and blushed, reluctantly agreeing. Yi Yuzhuo immediately became happy, brushed back Fan Jing's hair, and asked if it hurt, then proceeded to treat his wound. Not forgetting the opportunity, he let slip some sweet nothings, praising Fan Jing's good looks and expressing that he fell for him at first sight. Fan Jing found it somewhat unbelievable, and Yi Yuzhuo quickly explained that he had just returned from abroad, so he was more open-minded. Fan Jing was somewhat speechless, feeling that he had monopolized the compliments. Yi Yuzhuo comforted Fan Jing not to be nervous, assuring him that he would dress the wound carefully. After the treatment, Fan Jing touched his forehead and thanked Yi Yuzhuo. Seizing the moment, Yi Yuzhuo asked for Fan Jing's contact information. Before the other could speak, he leaned in for a car hood moment, saying he wanted to give Fan Jing his contact details. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing wasn't having any of it and pushed him away, leaving without looking back. Fan Jing's wariness only made Yi Yuzhuo find the situation more intriguing. Fan Jing glanced at the time. His assistant reminded him that if he couldn't get a taxi, he might be late for the audition. Just then, Yi Yuzhuo offered to drive Fan Jing to the audition. Fan Jing found Yi Yuzhuo exceedingly persistent and didn't want to get involved with him, so he refused. Yi Yuzhuo smiled radiantly, asking if he was thinking of backing out. Fan Jing sighed. At this moment he could only compromise. Yi Yuzhuo considerately opened the door for Fan Jing. On the passenger seat lay his phone. His friend had mentioned introducing him to some new targets. Yi Yuzhuo agreed but found a more captivating target on the way there. Fan Jing hurried to the audition site of Spirit Fox Legend only to be told he was 15 minutes late and could not audition. Fan Jing hoped the other party would give him another chance, but his agent could only express regret. Just when Fan Jing thought the sky was falling, Yi Shu patted him on the shoulder and offered to help, but with one condition that he had to agree to. Fan Jing felt threatened by Yi Shu, but Yi Shu simply said he wanted to help. At that moment, a group of people around started to mock and jeer at Fan Jing, saying he deserved to lose his big opportunity for acting like a diva. They also laughed at his lack of ability compared to his attitude. Fan Jing's fists clenched in anger, and he shook off Yizhuo's hand and left. The agent, who had just been speaking pleasantries, also started to kick Fan Jing when he was down, feeling he deserved to be dropped for his diva behavior. But soon, he was cautioned by a look from Yizhuo. Yizhuo directly leveraged his connections and immediately made a phone call to find a way for Fan Jing. Meanwhile, Fan Jing was still brooding in a corner, feeling that the opportunity he had worked so hard for was now gone. Unexpectedly, the next second, the agent who had just been kicking him when he was down immediately invited him with a smiling face to audition again. Fan Jing was very surprised but soon realized that it might be thanks to Yizhuo's help. Sure enough, Yizhuo was already waiting at the door and greeted him nonchalantly. However, Fan Jing just passed by him without intending to return the greeting. Unexpectedly, the next second, Yizhuo blocked his way. Fan Jing pushed his hand away and told him to move aside, but Yizhuo grabbed Fan Jing's hand and accused him of being cold for not even saying, "Thank you." This confirmed Fan Jing's suspicion. This statement also confirmed Fan Jing's speculation. Fan Jing stated that he did not ask for help, so naturally, he would not agree to the request. After saying that, he walked away. Yuzhuo reached out and grabbed Fan Jing's shoulder, pulling him into his arms and catching his waist in the process. Explaining that the previous incident was just a joke, he also said he wanted to apologize, hoping Fan Jing wasn't angry. After speaking, he didn't forget to touch Fan Jing's face, asking why it was red. Fan Jing warned Yuzhuo again not to get too close. Yuzhuo obviously didn't take it seriously and even cheered him on for the audition, thinking that he wouldn't let him go easily in the future. Having not walked 2 steps, Yuzhuo sensed something. He leaned lazily against the wall, intending to hear what others were saying about Fan Jing. 2 men were criticizing Fan Jing, calling him a vase, surely having a backer. Before they spoke much, someone warned them that they had made a wasted trip today for this drama. Yuzhuo directly told the 2 men that the drama would not have roles for them. The men were instantly furious, demanding to know why he said that. Yuzhuo arrogantly stated it was because they had offended the person he was interested in. Fan Jing smoothly got the opportunity to audition and began his self-introduction. Yuzhuo was hiding outside, secretly watching him, even feeling somewhat relieved. Fan Jing showcased his acting skills brilliantly. 2 assistants privately discussed, surprised at how good Fan Jing's acting was, even speculating that he could land the lead role. Yuzhuo leaned against the wall, contemplating that Fan Jing could capture others' hearts as soon as he spoke, making him want to conquer even more. On the other side, Fan Jing also finished his performance, and when he bowed, he sneakily caught a glimpse of Yuzhuo. Unexpectedly, Yuzhuo has been watching his performance and even applauded for him. But Fan Jing still didn't want to have anything to do with him and planned to leave. As they brushed past each other, Yuzhuo still said, "Looking forward to our next meeting." Fan Jing replied irritably that they would never meet again, and before leaving, he glanced at Zhang Siyuan. Yuzhuo ran over to Zhang Siyuan with a radiant face to talk, believing that Zhang Siyuan should thank him for not missing a good actor. Zhang Siyuan stroked his chin, thinking it wasn't bad at all. No wonder Yuzhuo specifically messaged him to watch Fan Jing's audition. Suddenly, he noticed something else. At this moment, Yuzhuo was smiling even brighter than flowers beside him. He suspected that the other party was here to chase stars. Soon, he persuaded Yuzhuo to go home. Yuzhuo pouted, immediately locking onto the suspect. It was probably his dad who had complained. Then, he shamelessly rubbed against Zhang Siyuan's arm, using the matter of Fan Jing as a shield, hoping the other would spare him this time. He picked up the resume on the table, learned that Fan Jing was an artist from Sheng Entertainment, and immediately had a new idea. Fan Jing received a message from his assistant. "See you at the company. Congratulations, brother Jing, you passed the audition." See you at the company. As soon as he entered the company, he was warmly greeted by 2 beautiful sisters. "Good morning." The sisters also immediately noticed the new face. At this moment, Yuzhuo, dressed in a chic and sharp suit, indeed had the aura of a CEO. Yuzhuo skillfully put his arm around Fan Jing's shoulder, asking him why he was so happy, then leaned in to look at the messages on his phone. Fan Jing was shocked and questioned why he was there. Yuzhuo, with his hands in his pockets, appeared somewhat helpless on his face. He was followed by bodyguards and assistants. The bodyguard immediately stepped forward to explain that Yuzhuo was the newly appointed CEO of Sheng Entertainment and even questioned Fan Jing about which agent was responsible for him, not even knowing such a big deal. The tables have turned, leaving Fan Jing speechless. Yuzhuo immediately pulled out his victim card, somewhat aggrievedly stating that Fan Jing had turned his back on him. Soon, his assistant reminded him of a fashion gala to attend. Fan Jing found Yuzhuo's CEO status a bit too coincidental. Yuzhuo asked if Fan Jing would attend, and the assistant awkwardly shifted the responsibility to Fan Jing's manager. Yuzhuo stroked his chin and immediately arranged Fan Jing's schedule for the fashion gala, then clapped Fan Jing on the shoulder, asking him to accompany him. Fan Jing was shocked, thinking he must have heard wrong. Yuzhuo did not repeat but instead lifted Fan Jing's chin, advising him to dress nicely. Fan Jing attended the party as promised. At the moment, he was being persuaded and plied with drinks by President Chen, who hinted it was the perfect time for him to commit and expressed hope of him becoming the leading man. Fan Jing clearly did not understand and politely thanked him for the attention. Facing President Chen's persuasion to drink, Fan Jing sensed something was amiss. But due to the other's significant status, he prepared to drink the poured drink. Fortunately, Yuzhuo timely appeared, blocking the drink for him and stood in front of him, smilingly handling the situation. Fan Jing was confused, as the other party was actually helping him out. Yuzhuo turned to praise Fan Jing for his good looks, saying everyone was revolving around him. Fan Jing's face immediately flushed, thinking he was talking nonsense. Yuzhuo seized the opportunity to pretend he was drunk and leaned on Fan Jing. Fan Jing tried to push him away, thinking such a small cup couldn't possibly make him drunk. Yuzhuo asked Fan Jing why he was so guarded against him. Fan Jing countered by asking how he would feel if a stranger suddenly became his boss. Yuzhuo said he would find it to be fate. Instead of continuing the conversation, Fan Jing told him to rest if he was drunk. Yuzhuo immediately drew closer, asking Fan Jing if he was worried about him. Fan Jing blushed, saying he was just afraid the president would embarrass the company. Yuzhuo knew Fan Jing's words didn't match his true feelings. Soon, he noticed that Fan Jing was sweating a lot. Fan Jing was somewhat shy, feeling that Yuzhuo was standing too close. Fan Jing then pushed him away, saying he needed to go to the restroom. Fan Jing also realized something was wrong with himself. Not only was he hot, but he also felt dizzy. He stood in front of the mirror, feeling not only dizzy but also weak. President Chen saw this and quickly stepped forward to hold him, asking with a suggestive look what was wrong. Fan Jing was startled by President Chen's actions, loudly questioning what he was doing. President Chen immediately grabbed his neck, saying he wanted to take good care of him. In a panic, Fan Jing picked up a can from the table, ready to throw it, and shouted for President Chen to get away. He was ready to smash it and shouted for Mr. Chen to get out of the way, but Mr. Chen saw through the trick effortlessly. Mr. Chen bluntly said that the medicine was not strong enough. Fan Jing then realized Mr. Chen's conspiracy and loudly questioned what he had put in the wine. But Mr. Chen didn't want to pay him any mind, grabbed his hair, and thought he was ungrateful. He even used the fact that Fan Jing wasn't liked by his manager to provoke him. At the critical moment, Fan Jing thought of Yuzhuo and tried to use his name to intimidate Mr. Chen. But Mr. Chen wasn't scared at all. Instead, he got closer and licked his lips, thinking that Yuzhuo would also agree to use him to exchange for resources. Fan Jing immediately shed tears of frustration, secretly wondering if Yuzhuo would really do that. It was another moment that needed a hero to save the damsel in distress. Just as Mr. Chen was about to succeed, Yuzhuo made a dramatic entrance and questioned Mr. Chen's actions, his eyes full of concern for Fan Jing. Faced with Yuzhuo's appearance, Mr. Chen clearly didn't take it to heart. After all, he thought highly of himself as an important client and told Yuzhuo not to ruin his good deed. Unexpectedly, Yuzhuo directly disciplined him and almost broke his hand. Mr. Chen was in so much pain that he blurted out a swear word and warned Yuzhuo that their companies had prior cooperation agreements. Yuzhuo didn't care about the project at all and cancelled the cooperation on the spot. He stepped forward, covered Fan Jing with a coat, and gently cared for him. Mr. Chen was still furious, threatening to see them later. Yuzhuo also fiercely stated he wouldn't let Mr. Chen get away with it. Fan Jing didn't expect Yuzhuo to lose his temper for his sake. But he didn't want Yuzhuo to see him in such a sorry state. He forced himself to leave but nearly fell due to the effect of the drug. Fortunately, Yuzhuo caught him in time. Yuzhuo took the opportunity to pull him into his arms, softly consoling him, then brought Fan Jing home, even intending to be thorough by accompanying him into the bathroom. Fan Jing insisted he could manage by himself, but Yuzhuo felt Fan Jing wasn't capable of self-care at the moment. Before he could finish his words, he was interrupted by Fan Jing, who once again emphasized his independence. Yuzhuo had no choice but to compromise, reminding him to call if he needed anything. Then Yuzhuo made a call to his assistant to investigate President Chen's incident and to see if anyone at Sheng Entertainment was colluding with him. After the call, he vowed internally to make President Chen and his accomplices pay. Sounds came from the bathroom, and Yuzhuo rushed to open the door, asking if Fan Jing was okay. At that moment, Fan Jing was by the bathtub, somewhat dazed, and told Yi Yuzhuo not to worry about him. Maintaining his virtue was more important than anything. Unexpectedly, the next second he was wrapped in a towel and cradled in Yi Yuzhuo's arms. Fan Jing yelled for Yi Yuzhuo to let him go, and Yi Yuzhuo asked angrily if he intended to soak in cold water all night and torment himself to death. Feeling guilty, Fan Jing still believed his virtue was more important than his life. Yi Yuzhuo thoughtfully carried Fan Jing to the bed, where Fan Jing mumbled about feeling both cold and hot. In the current situation, it seemed to be Yi Yuzhuo's turn for things to look up. Fan Jing questioned his intentions, and Yi Yuzhuo expressed his desire to help, unable to stand by and watch him die. A blushing Fan Jing asked what kind of help Yi Yuzhuo could provide, to which Yi Yuzhuo said for him to guess. Angry and frustrated, Fan Jing grabbed Yi Yuzhuo's arm and demanded he roll off the bed. Yi Yuzhuo felt Fan Jing really was stubborn and asked if he knew what he looked like now. Yi Yuzhuo thought that not only was Fan Jing a feast for the eyes, but he also strongly aroused his desire to conquer. Let him reap the benefits of the mess President Chen had created. He immediately comforted Fan Jing, saying now was not the time to be strong. With tears streaming down his face, Fan Jing pleaded with Yi Yuzhuo not to touch him. Yi Yuzhuo continued his pursuit, claiming it was the best solution and advised him not to endure any longer. Fan Jing was about to lose consciousness, but before that, he managed to muster a no. Scoring full marks for his masculinity, Yi Yuzhuo didn't care for the numbers. He felt like he had hit the jackpot. Since the prey had delivered itself to his doorstep, it would be rude to refuse. When the sun filled the earth with its wine-like light, Fan Jing woke up. Holding his head, he was unsure of the time, but soon he remembered last night's events with Yi Yuzhuo. They had spent the night together, and he realized that it was Yi Yuzhuo who had changed his clothes. Yi Yuzhuo mentioned he had slept straight through to the afternoon. Only then did Fan Jing notice Yi Yuzhuo inviting him to eat outside the door. Yi Yuzhuo gently apologized for taking liberties, holding Fan Jing's waist and cheekily inquired how he found the experience last night. Fan Jing was anxious to set boundaries, insisting that last night was Christmas Eve and nothing happened. Yi Yuzhuo was eager to bet otherwise, naturally not wanting to be unrelated to him. As Fan Jing was about to reiterate their relationship, Yi Yuzhuo's merciless hand stopped him. Yi Yuzhuo said he didn't want to spoil the mood and pushed him to go eat first. He had thoughtfully prepared a warm and nourishing porridge of goji berries, Chinese yam, and lean meat, brightly handing him the bowl of porridge, saying next time he would make him a real feast. With skepticism, Fan Jing took a sip and to his surprise, it tasted good. This even slightly improved his view of Yi Yuzhuo. Yi Yuzhuo asked how Fan Jing rated his performance last night, which startled Fan Jing into spitting out the porridge he had just sipped. He shouted Yi Yuzhuo's name in exasperation, but Yi Yuzhuo was delighted, patting his back considerately and saying he was just speaking casually. Then Yi Yuzhuo earnestly added that he found himself quite charming last night. Fan Jing had no idea what Yi Yuzhuo was really up to. Yi Yuzhuo felt that the matter couldn't just be brushed off. The two of them, with their combined cleverness, soon had Yi Yuzhuo grabbing Fan Jing's hand, asking if they could maintain their relationship as is. Fan Jing immediately understood that the other wanted to keep a casual relationship. He then felt that the other making breakfast for him was also for the sake of spending another night together. Yi Yuzhuo didn't expect Fan Jing to get so angry and immediately denied it. He immediately denied it, just intending to say something casually to appease him. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing became even angrier, feeling that not a single word from his mouth was true, and grabbed his collar to ask him if he had actually developed true feelings. Yi Yuzhuo admitted it calmly and seriously, which made Fan Jing blush a bit embarrassingly, but he still didn't forget to set boundaries with Yi Yuzhuo, indicating that everything was an accident. Yi Yuzhuo got somewhat angry, pinched Fan Jing's chin, and questioned why he was in a hurry to clear the relationship, asking if he was afraid of him. Fan Jing immediately turned his head away, frankly admitting he indeed feared more trouble from him. He also took the opportunity to remind Yi Yuzhuo of their hierarchical relationship and mentioned that an assistant would come to deliver the script soon. It wouldn't look good if the assistant saw him there. Yi Yuzhuo left in a rage, slamming the door behind him, which finally made Fan Jing breathe a sigh of relief. Remembering how Yi Yuzhuo had come to his rescue the night before, he felt he might have been a bit too harsh. By this time, Yi Yuzhuo had already reached the bar but was still angry. His friend comforted him, saying it was just a play between bedmates and he could just find someone else. Yi Yuzhuo stated it was different for him, he just liked to chase after those who were indifferent to him. His friend handed him a glass of wine, thinking he had probably met a tough nut to crack. Swirling his wine, Yi Yuzhuo felt that Fan Jing was indeed a tough nut. Recalling that night's Fan Jing, he felt it was worth the effort. His friend, patting his shoulder, wanted to see his charm and proposed a new bet. Yi Yuzhuo immediately agreed, seeming determined to win. Then, they clinked glasses, and Yuzhuo confirmed the content of the bet, to make Fan Jing willingly become his within 3 months. After all, he took over Sheng Entertainment because of Fan Jing. As a businessman, he naturally looks for returns and now couldn't give up easily. Soon, he received a call from his assistant about the scandalous news spreading regarding him and Fan Jing, mainly stirring up the narrative of Fan Jing rising to fame through a sugar daddy. The assistant inquired if they should use connections to suppress the incident. Yuzhuo felt that as it was Fan Jing's rise to prominence, the scandal was indeed not beneficial for his development. But soon, he had another idea. He decided to let the incident ferment and cause some trouble for Fan Jing. After all, sometimes the prey caught in the net needs a bit of external force to push. At this moment, Fan Jing received a call from his dad, who was asking for money again. Fan Jing acknowledged it. After hanging up, the assistant asked if his dad was asking for money again, noting that it was not long since the last time. Fan Jing mentioned that now was not the time to worry about this and that they should focus on resolving the scandalous news quickly. Just as they stepped out of the company's entrance, they encountered a group of reporters. The assistant felt it was really haunted by Fan Jing's luck. As Fan Jing appeared, the reporters swarmed up, wanting him to accept their interview. Fan Jing was already mentally prepared for this. A reporter holding a newspaper asked Fan Jing if he planned to remain silent as before. Fan Jing felt that the reporters only wanted news and did not consider the victim's feelings. Suddenly, 2 horn sounds came from the roadside, and Fan Jing immediately noticed. A white sports car had joined the crowd. Yuzhuo rolled down the window, sending a very clear signal. Fan Jing got into the passenger seat of Yuzhuo's car, and Yuzhuo started making conversation. Yuzhuo mentioned that it was his first time seeing such a big commotion, jokingly saying he and Fan Jing had become the stars of a scandal together. Fan Jing, annoyed, questioned if he found it amusing. Soon, Fan Jing felt that since the problem didn't affect Yuzhuo directly, he naturally found it interesting. The more he spoke, the angrier he got, trying to dissociate himself from the situation. Yuzhuo got anxious too, quickly taking all the blame onto himself and comforting him not to be angry. Fan Jing suddenly felt he might have been too harsh. He didn't know why he always showed his bad side to Yuzhuo and then fell silent. Yuzhuo also noticed that something was off with Fan Jing and asked him with concern if he was alright. Fan Jing said he didn't mind, believing that people would lose interest once the hype died down. However, Yuzhuo suddenly stopped the car, leaving Fan Jing a bit bewildered. Yuzhuo then leaned closer, indicating that Fan Jing was just pretending not to care and must have taken it to heart, otherwise he wouldn't have been so absent-minded as to not even buckle his seatbelt. After saying that, he buckled the seatbelt for him. Yuzhuo patted his head, comforting him not to force himself, and promised to handle the situation. Fan Jing blushed at his actions, not understanding why he was so concerned about him. Unexpectedly, the next second, Yuzhuo kissed him on the face. Fan Jing was shocked, covering his face, unable to utter a single word in excitement. Yuzhuo raised his hands, saying he just couldn't help himself at the moment and told Fan Jing to take it as a form of comfort. Fan Jing was furious, saying he didn't need that kind of comfort and urged him to drive, feeling that he needed to be wary around him at all times. The two said goodbye in the parking lot, but Fan Jing hadn't walked 2 steps before running into Boss Chen, who came with a group of thugs intending to make trouble for him at his house. Boss Chen didn't hide his intentions and directly told Fan Jing that he was the one who had arranged for those scandalous photos. Fan Jing hadn't expected Boss Chen to be behind it. Boss Chen shirked all responsibility, blaming Fan Jing for being stubborn, then tried to intimidate him by saying, "Don't let it come to drinking punishment instead of a toast." Fan Jing immediately brushed off his hand, telling him to back off and calling him disgusting, which infuriated Boss Chen, who then cursed out loud. At the critical moment, Yuzhuo came to support Fan Jing again, immediately shielding him behind his back. But Fan Jing was somewhat puzzled by his actions. Yuzhuo greeted Boss Chen with a punch, catching him completely off guard as he spat out blood. Yuzhuo warns Boss Chen that Fan Jing is not someone he can mess with. Boss Chen, holding his face, feels that it is a good time for revenge, so he orders his thugs to step forward and deal with the two. Yuzhuo tells Fan Jing to leave first. Fan Jing is somewhat worried about him and doesn't plan to leave first. Yuzhuo swings his long leg and directly takes down a thug. At this moment, a thug has already set his sights on Fan Jing, preparing to shoot Fan Jing in the back of the head. Yuzhuo senses the danger to Fan Jing. Yuzhuo sensed the danger to Fan Jing and quickly pulled him away from the fray, taking a hit from a thug himself. Blood dripped onto the ground as Fan Jing screamed Yuzhuo's name. Yuzhuo kicked the thug away and, clutching his injured shoulder, told Fan Jing to run. Unexpectedly, he was confronted by the fist of a thug with red hair. Although Yuzhuo had anticipated the attack, another thug restrained him from behind, allowing the redhead to land a heavy punch. Boss Chen commanded the redhead to teach Yuzhuo a lesson, and the redhead was eager to comply. He grabbed Yuzhuo by the collar, ready to give him a beating, when he was stopped by someone. Fan Jing, holding up his phone, warned the thugs that he had called the police and everything was being recorded by a camera. The thugs, somewhat shocked, looked around and saw the camera. Boss Chen then decided to call it off for the day. Fan Jing immediately went to check on Yuzhuo's injuries. By then, Yuzhuo was in so much pain he was nearly kneeling, saying everything hurt. Seeing Yuzhuo holding his head, Fan Jing worried he might have internal injuries and suggested going to the hospital, but was refused. Yuzhuo, feeling sorry for himself, told Fan Jing to leave him alone and somewhat manipulatively expressed that he would only be trouble for Fan Jing. He also felt guilty about the situation with Boss Chen. Fan Jing, slightly angered, explained he never blamed him and urged him not to be temperamental. Yuzhuo took the opportunity to express his desire to pursue Fan Jing, leaving Fan Jing shocked and unconsciously blushing. Seeing no response, Yuzhuo pretended to be strong again, urging Fan Jing to leave and insisting he could manage on his own. Noticing Yuzhuo clutching his ankle, Fan Jing felt responsible for his injuries and couldn't leave him like this, so he agreed to stay. Yuzhuo couldn't believe it, the other party actually agreed. Since he achieved his goal, he stopped pretending and immediately got up to stretch, indicating that after listening to Fan Jing's words, his waist wasn't sore and his legs weren't hurting anymore. Fan Jing was somewhat infuriated and asked Yuzhuo if he was making fun of him. Yuzhuo quickly explained, stating that he was indeed injured, but it wasn't serious. Feeling that the injury was not serious, Fan Jing planned to let him be. Unexpectedly, in the next second, his hand was grabbed by Yuzhuo, who was looking at him with pitiful eyes, asking him not to leave. Yuzhuo candidly admitted that he took advantage of the situation, but it all came from his sincerity. He hoped Fan Jing would give him a chance. Fan Jing, blushing, told him to get up quickly. Seizing the opportunity, Yuzhuo said he was injured and couldn't get up. Although Fan Jing verbally said he wouldn't help, his hands honestly went to support him. Yuzhuo smiled somewhat relieved, knowing that Fan Jing was just being tsundere and actually cared about him. Just as Fan Jing helped Yuzhuo up, the latter's phone accidentally fell. He told Yuzhuo not to move and that he would pick it up. When Fan Jing picked up the phone, he accidentally saw Yuzhuo's screensaver and his expression became serious. While applying medicine to Yuzhuo, Fan Jing said he had something to ask him. Yuzhuo told him to just ask. Fan Jing mentioned that he accidentally saw his lock screen in the underground parking lot, and it was a photo of Fan Jing. With an innocent face, Yuzhuo asked how he could sneak a peek at a young man's private affairs. However, Fan Jing didn't believe this and grabbed Yuzhuo's face. Yuzhuo, in pain, kept begging for mercy, complaining that he was being too harsh on a patient. He quickly explained that it was just a photo he took to relieve his longing. Soon after, he took Fan Jing's hand, indicating that things were different now and he could officially pursue Fan Jing. Fan Jing remembered that she indeed agreed to his request, but now feels it was a bit hasty. She explained that she agreed out of desperation and it would be better to think it over calmly. Yuzhuo asked what she meant by that, wondering if she wanted to go back on her word. She was somewhat hesitant but still felt this matter was no joke. Before she could finish, Yuzhuo moved closer, and Fan Jing, not knowing his intentions, was on guard. She immediately covered his mouth with her hand, warning him not to go too far. Yuzhuo, holding Fan Jing's hand, felt she was guarding against him as if he were a wolf, yet Fan Jing felt there was no difference between him and a wolf. Yuzhuo didn't care and kissed the palm of Fan Jing's hand, wanting her to know he wasn't joking about this matter and suggested taking things slow. Fan Jing decided to take a step back, planning to first check the wound on his shoulder. Yuzhuo's entire shoulder was bruised. Fan Jing criticized those thugs for being too harsh. Yuzhuo jokingly asked if she was heartbroken, which she somewhat was, considering he got injured protecting her. Yuzhuo buried his head in Fan Jing's embrace, telling her there was no need for apologies, especially since the company still relied on him as the star to attract attention. Fan Jing felt conflicted. Initially, she thought Yuzhuo's pursuit was out of novelty, and she had no time for love games. But now, she decided to follow her heart and try to trust Yuzhuo, who was scheming how to settle accounts with President Chen. It turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as Fan Jing had begun to trust him, making the deal worthwhile. The assistant told Fan Jing that the tabloid news had been suppressed and that President Chen was under investigation for tax issues. The assistant was relieved that they hadn't cooperated with President Chen recently. Fan Jing calmly stated that he had heard some things about President Chen and secretly guessed that all this must have been Yuzhuo's doing. The assistant asked Fan Jing if it was Yuzhuo who took him home after the party. Fan Jing didn't answer but jokingly accused him of gossiping. The assistant continued to gossip, believing that Yuzhuo was interested in Fan Jing. Worried about leaks, Fan Jing shut the assistant's mouth by invoking the authority of his boss, Yuzhuo, telling him not to talk nonsense. The assistant tactfully found an excuse to leave. Soon after, Fan Jing received a message from Yuzhuo, inviting him to lunch together. Fan Jing thought that Yuzhuo never missed a chance. Immediately after, Lu Kuo came over to chat with Fan Jing, saying he seemed to be living it up lately before introducing himself. After speaking, he didn't forget to take the initiative to introduce himself. Before Fan Jing could say anything, Lu Kuo started gossiping. He asked if Fan Jing had slept with the boss. Fan Jing gave him an annoyed look, but Lu Kuo didn't mind and even comforted him, saying these things are not uncommon. Fan Jing felt it was unnecessary to argue with him, just explained briefly without giving him any good face. Lu Kuo, still not giving up, kept dancing on Fan Jing's minefield, thinking such matters are not shameful. He also told him that Yuzhuo used to be promiscuous abroad. Fan Jing was somewhat surprised and asked what he was talking about. Fan Jing warned Lu Kuo to think about the consequences. Spreading rumors about the boss is not a good thing. Lu Kuo replied he wasn't talking nonsense. After all, his friend who owns a bar had introduced bed partners to Yuzhuo not too long ago. After saying that, he looked at Fan Jing with admiration, thinking Fan Jing has attached himself to a big shot and doesn't have to worry about lacking good resources. Fan Jing got a bit angry and emphasized again that his relationship with Yuzhuo was not what Lu Kuo thought. Lu Kuo had no choice but to let it go, explaining he was just trying to get close and understand the boss's preferences. Fan Jing, looking at his phone, felt deeply deceived. He made an excuse to decline Yuzhuo's lunch invitation. At this moment, he felt that everything Yuzhuo had done for him was just a scheme. But soon, he remembered Yuzhuo getting hurt for him and suddenly wasn't sure what kind of person Yuzhuo really was. Fan Jing dressed up and went to the restaurant Yuzhuo had asked him to meet at. He asked a waiter about the reservation Yuzhuo had made. The waiter said Yuzhuo had already arrived and asked if they were together, offering to show him the way. Fan Jing agreed because he felt that some things still needed to be clarified in person, and this was the first time Yuzhuo had asked him out. He did not want to wrongly accuse Yuzhuo, but before he could be seated, he heard a familiar voice. To his surprise, Yuzhuo had already invited someone else. The two were very intimate, and Yuzhuo looked very happy. Soon, Yuzhuo also noticed someone was watching him. He recognized Fan Jing's silhouette and immediately went forward to grab him. Yuzhuo asked, "Didn't he have something to do and couldn't come?" Fan Jing immediately turned sarcastic, thinking that even if he hadn't come, it wouldn't have stopped Yuzhuo from finding someone else to eat with. Yuzhuo noticed he was unhappy and asked if he was jealous, then explained that he was just talking business. He then reached out to touch his face, saying that if he had known he was coming, he would have kept all his time for him. Fan Jing pushed his hand away and asked word by word whether they were discussing business or something in bed. Seeing that Yuzhuo didn't speak, Fan Jing said he wouldn't interrupt his peacock display. Yuzhuo asked why he thought that way and grabbed his hand again, asking if he had heard something. Lu Kuo heard the noise and came over, calling Fan Jing's name and asking if he was also there for a meal. Realizing that the person dining with Yuzhuo was Lu Kuo, Fan Jing shook off Yuzhuo's hand, saying he was just passing by. Yuzhuo was so angry he could almost grind his molars to dust. His relationship with Fan Jing had finally made some progress, but it was about to fall apart. Lu Kuo felt that Fan Jing always had a condescending attitude, even in the morning. Yuzhuo immediately glared at him and asked what he had said. Lu Kuo stammered, explaining that he thought they were just bed partners. Yuzhuo was so furious he could burst. He warned Lu Kuo that if he couldn't keep his mouth shut, their relationship would end right there. It started to pour outside, and Fan Jing was still angry. He didn't want to answer Yuzhuo's calls, but the latter kept calling him. Fan Jing answered the call, making it clear he didn't want to be disturbed. Yuzhuo said he was downstairs at his place. Fan Jing was somewhat shocked, especially since it was raining outside. He immediately got up to check, not understanding what Yuzhuo was up to. Yuzhuo looked at Fan Jing with hopeful eyes, saying that if Fan Jing wouldn't listen to his explanation, he would just keep waiting there. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing simply drew the curtains, showing he didn't want to hear the explanation and mercilessly hung up the phone. Fan Jing looked at his phone, regretting not realizing sooner Yuzhuo's nature of attracting admirers. Yuzhuo kept sending messages to Fan Jing, insisting on seeing him no matter what. However, Fan Jing felt that cutting losses in time was the wiser action. Soon, thunder started outside, startling Fan Jing, who looked out the window with some concern. Looking at the extinguished lights, Yi Yuzhuo suddenly scoffed at himself, realizing he was too confident and had thought Fan Jing would soften. Unexpectedly, the next second, Fan Jing really appeared in front of him. Yi Yuzhuo was somewhat surprised to see Fan Jing. But Fan Jing didn't want to invite him upstairs, just gave him an umbrella and told him to get lost. Yi Yuzhuo grabbed Fan Jing, begging him not to leave. Yi Yuzhuo felt that Fan Jing still had feelings for him, so he planned to take the opportunity to explain. Fan Jing disgustedly pulled his hand back, wishing to immediately draw a clear line with this scum and not listen to his explanation. Before leaving, Fan Jing brought up the matter of Yi Yuzhuo's previous pursuit, feeling it was time to give a response. Fan Jing stated that the two of them were not suitable and asked the other party not to bother him anymore. Yi Yuzhuo, with a bet at stake, couldn't take this provocation. The words "not suitable" filled his mind, and he couldn't even hold on to the umbrella. Fan Jing ended up gifting the umbrella himself. The two stood off in the rain, Yi Xuanxiao blaming Fan Jing for rather believing someone else's side of the story than his efforts. Now, he wouldn't even give him a chance to explain. Fan Jing didn't back down, believing that he knew best whether it was just one side of the story or the truth. After saying his piece, he again urged him to leave, completely missing that the other was about to fall. Fan Jing finally noticed just as Yi Xuanxiao was about to collapse. Seeing Yi Xuanxiao faint, Fan Jing immediately went to support him. Yi Xuanxiao asked Fan Jing not to leave and took the opportunity to explain, asserting that he hadn't lied to him. Fan Jing felt it wasn't the time for explanations, but Yi Xuanxiao insisted on clarifying everything. Fan Jing decided to carry Yi Xuanxiao home, comforting him that they could talk about everything at home. Yi Xuanxiao then showed a relieved smile.
Yi Yuzhuo smiled smugly. Meanwhile, Fan Jing was drying his hair while replaying the moment he fell for the scumbag's tricks again. Yi Yuzhuo had asked Fan Jing for a favor, but it was more like seduction. He showed up with his muscular physique, making Fan Jing blush. Fan Jing asked him why he wasn't wearing clothes. Yi Yuzhuo gestured to the injury on his shoulder, indicating he couldn't dress himself. Fan Jing couldn't refuse, feeling somewhat responsible for Yi Yuzhuo's injury. He reluctantly agreed to help. Fan Jing thoughtfully dressed Yi Yuzhuo while scolding him for acting like a fool, ready to stand in the rain downstairs until he died. Yi Yuzhuo pulled Fan Jing into his arms. Fan Jing, slightly flustered, asked what he was doing. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuzhuo acted wronged, accusing Fan Jing of misunderstanding him. He claimed he'd die of heartbreak, not from the rain. He then placed Fan Jing's hand over his heart, confessing that he didn't care about others' opinions, but he couldn't bear Fan Jing's mistrust. He then kissed Fan Jing. With a sincere expression, Yi Yuzhuo declared that Fan Jing was the one he truly loved. The rain continued outside the window. Fan Jing held a book in his hands. However, he couldn't focus on it at all. His mind was full of Yi Yuzhuo lying beside him. He realized every attempt to draw a line with Yi Yuzhuo had been in vain. He recalled Yi Yuzhuo's heartfelt confession and suddenly felt a surge of girlish emotions, unsure whether to believe him. At that moment, Yi Yuzhuo mumbled in his sleep, telling Fan Jing he was cold. Fan Jing pulled the blanket over him, thinking this guy never stopped ordering him around, even in his sleep. Suddenly, Fan Jing sensed something was wrong. He immediately reached out to feel Yi Yuzhuo's forehead. As expected, he had a fever. Fan Jing felt a pang of guilt, blaming himself for letting Yi Yuzhuo get caught in the rain. He softly called Yi Yuzhuo's name, urging him to get up and take medicine. Yi Yuzhuo felt aches all over. Fan Jing took a handkerchief to wipe his sweat, comforting him that it was normal to feel unwell with a fever. He even offered to help wipe his body, but his face flushed red the moment he reached Yi Yuzhuo's neck. Yi Yuzhuo, on the other hand, seemed calm and even took the initiative to pull his clothes open. Fan Jing's face turned even redder. Yi Yuzhuo laughed at him, saying his face was redder than a patient's. Fan Jing told him to stop talking, but Yi Yuzhuo suddenly started coughing. Fan Jing nervously asked if he was all right. He took the opportunity to lean into Fan Jing's arms, claiming he wasn't feeling well and asking Fan Jing to join him in bed. Fan Jing complained that Yi Yuzhuo was trying to get him sick but still pulled back the blanket. Yi Yuzhuo snuggled into Fan Jing's arms, saying he was so kind. Fan Jing, however, found his behavior childish and clingy. Yi Yuzhuo disagreed, stating he could be even more clingy. He then threw his leg over Fan Jing's and tried to kiss his neck. This flustered Fan Jing, who complained that Yi Yuzhuo couldn't stop himself even when he was sick. Yi Yuzhuo replied that with his beloved by his side, he had to perk up. Fan Jing pinched his face, telling him to sleep or be thrown out. He pulled the blanket over Yi Yuzhuo, reminding him not to catch another cold. As Yi Yuxiao looked at Fan Jing, he thought about how despite being surrounded by admirers, they were all transactional. No one had ever taken care of him so sincerely. Fan Jing noticed his soft smile and asked what he was thinking. Not wanting to reveal his true feelings, Yi Yuxiao simply teased that Fan Jing should be held responsible for him. Fan Jing was speechless, thinking this guy was seriously ill. As they slept in each other's arms, Yi Yuxiao recalled that this was the first time he had ever lain in bed with a man and done nothing. Even stranger, he felt at peace. Hand in hand, they spent another Christmas Eve together. Fan Jing was the first to wake up in Yi Yuxiao's arms. The first thing he did was to feel Yi Yuxiao's forehead, relieved to find the fever had subsided. Looking at the sleeping Yi Yuxiao, Fan Jing never thought he could be so quiet and well-behaved. He gently stroked Yi Yuxiao's lips and was about to confess his true feelings when his hand was caught. Yi Yuxiao asked him what he wanted to say. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing immediately sat up and blurted out that he was annoyed by Yi Yuxiao. But Yi Yuxiao didn't believe him. He pulled Fan Jing's hand, pinning him down, and declared that he wouldn't let him go until he told the truth. Fan Jing quickly changed the subject, saying that Yi Yuxiao must be all better now since he was so strong. Yi Yuxiao responded with a cheesy pickup line, claiming that Fan Jing was his medicine, effective and addictive. He then grabbed Fan Jing's hand and placed it over his heart, professing that he was filled with him. Fan Jing was at a loss for words, but he felt that no one in the world could resist Yi Yuxiao's cheesy lines. The atmosphere was thick with warmth and something more. Yi Yuxiao continued with his sweet nothings. If things went as they seemed, something good was bound to happen between them. But then came an interruption. Fan Jing's phone rang. A little annoyed, Yi Yuxiao told him to ignore it, but Fan Jing just chuckled and reassured him. He glanced at the caller ID and his expression turned serious. It was his father, who constantly pestered him for money. After a moment's hesitation, he answered. As he walked out of the room, he refused his father's request to use his name for business again. Lying in bed, Yi Yuxiao felt a little annoyed. He glanced at the family photo of Fan Jing by the bed, thinking about how the duck he thought was cooked had flown away. At this moment, Fan Jing returned after the phone call. Yi Yuxiao put on his harmless expression and asked with concern what happened. He rested his head on Fan Jing's shoulder and asked if he needed comfort, but Fan Jing mercilessly refused. However, Yi Yuxiao didn't give up. He suggested they do something fun, but Fan Jing pushed him away, saying he wasn't in the mood. At this point, Yi Yuxiao's patience was wearing thin, and he was about to lose his temper. But he still tried hard to restrain himself. For the sake of this bet, he could only try to maintain his understanding persona and stopped forcing Fan Jing. Fan Jing rubbed his head and told him to go home soon, as he also had work to do later. Fan Jing was shooting in the studio, and the photographer showered him with praise. The photographer showered him with compliments. Chain glasses, shirt, the epitome of abstinent chic. Even your gaze is full of drama. Yi Yuxiao was watching him prepare, and as the photographer called for a break, Fan Jing approached Yi Yuxiao, questioning the need for a CEO to personally oversee the shoot. Unfazed, Yi Yuxiao winked at him. I'm just dedicated to my company's projects. He then teased Fan Jing, don't tell me you don't enjoy seeing me here? Fan Jing, neither confirming nor denying, simply replied, I never said that. Yi Yuxiao patted his shoulder, sensing his distraction. He leaned in, wrapping his arm around Fan Jing's waist. Their intimate moment was interrupted by Fan Jing's assistant, who informed him of another call from his father and asked if he wanted to call back. Fan Jing declined. The photographer called for him to resume shooting, and Yi Yuxiao, with a smile, urged him to go. However, a seed of suspicion regarding Fan Jing's father, who always seemed to interrupt their time together, took root in Yi Yuxiao's mind. He called his assistant and instructed him to investigate Fan Jing's family background, particularly his father. Yi Yuxiao was surprised to learn that Fan Jing's family situation was rather complicated. Fan Jing's parents had divorced 15 years prior, and his father was heavily in debt. After Fan Jing became famous, his father started contacting him for money. To Yi Yuxiao's surprise, Fan Jing willingly acted as his father's personal ATM. Yi Yuxiao couldn't decide if he was naive or simply kind-hearted. However, Yi Yuxiao didn't see this as a bad thing. Instead, he saw it as an opportunity to gain Fan Jing's trust. At that moment, hearing a knock on the door, Fan Jing assumed it was Yi Yuxiao dropping by again unannounced. Unexpectedly, the person who came was his father. Fan Jing asked him why he was there. His father, reeking of alcohol, complained about Fan Jing not answering his calls. Fan Jing was used to his drunken state and tried to help him up, planning to talk after he sobered up. To his surprise, his father threw a drunken tantrum, demanding that Fan Jing promote his new store. Fan Jing stated that he had already refused and would not change his mind. His father grabbed Fan Jing's arm, accusing him of disregarding their father-son relationship, living in a big house while leaving him on the streets. Fan Jing suddenly lost his temper and pulled his arm away. He questioned his father about abandoning his wife and child, asking where his sense of familial duty was then. He also brought up how his father had been cheated by another woman, leaving them with a mountain of debt. Unable to win the argument, his father slapped him, accusing him of disrespect and demanding an apology. Fan Jing felt that he had indeed made a mistake, giving his father any money in the past. This angered his father, who tried to slap him again. At that critical moment, Yuzhuo arrived like a knight in shining armor, grabbing his father-in-law's hand. Without immediately revealing his identity, he explained to Fan Jing that he saw the door was open and came in, showing concern for Fan Jing. Only then did he tell Fan Jing's father that they should talk things out instead of resorting to violence. However, his father was ungrateful, cursing and smashing things, ordering him to mind his own business. Yuzhuo immediately revealed his identity as CEO, stating that he had an obligation to intervene in this matter. Fan Jing's father was stunned. Yuzhuo continued, stating that his father's actions constituted an assault on an artist under his company, which warranted legal action. However, he believed there was a better solution and offered to pay him a sum of money. In return, his father was forbidden from using Fan Jing's name for his store, and Fan Jing would not make any promotional appearances. Fan Jing's father immediately agreed, and Yuzhuo also promised to contact him. However, Fan Jing became anxious, stating that he hadn't agreed yet and asked his father not to leave. Yuzhuo pulled Fan Jing aside, persuading him to calm down and assuring him that the matter had been resolved. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing pushed him away, questioning why he acted on his own. Before Yuzhuo could explain, Fan Jing interrupted him, demanding that he stay out of his business. After speaking, he realized he spoke too harshly. Immediately, he touched Yuzhuo's face, apologizing and explaining that he didn't mean it that way. Yuzhuo generously accepted his apology and expressed his understanding. Fan Jing excused himself to clean the living room, but Yuzhuo knew he was just shy. While cleaning, Fan Jing accidentally cut his finger. Yuzhuo immediately came over to check on him. Fan Jing smiled, saying it was just a small cut, but Yuzhuo told him not to move. He then proceeded to lick the wound. Fan Jing was so shy that he couldn't utter a word. Yuzhuo took Fan Jing's injured finger and brought it to his lips, gazing intently at the healing cut. Meeting Fan Jing's stunned eyes, Yuzhuo gently kissed his finger, sternly warning him not to get hurt, no matter how small the injury. Hearing Yuzhuo's suggestive words, Fan Jing's face instantly flushed. He turned his head away, forbidding him from saying such things. Seeing Fan Jing's flustered and bashful reaction, Yuzhuo decided to tease him. Yuzhuo let out a puzzled sound, pretending not to understand, and explained to Fan Jing that he meant that as an actor, he couldn't afford to get injured easily. He concluded by asking if Fan Jing was overthinking it. Realizing that Yuzhuo was teasing him, Fan Jing's face turned red with embarrassment and anger. Annoyed, he stood up and turned to leave. In a panic, Yuzhuo quickly grabbed Fan Jing's arm, acting coquettishly and asking him not to be angry. Yuzhuo explained that he was just teasing him. Then, holding Fan Jing's hand, he led him outside, saying he wanted to take him somewhere. Confused, Fan Jing allowed himself to be led out the door. Yuzhuo quickly brought Fan Jing to the amusement park. It wasn't until he was sitting on the slowly rising ferris wheel that Fan Jing came to his senses. He looked at Yuzhuo in disbelief, confirming if the place he was taking him to was indeed the ferris wheel. Yuzhuo affirmed it and told Fan Jing that the reason he brought him here was that he had been looking down lately, and he hoped that coming to the ferris wheel would cheer him up. Then, with a proud look on his face, he said that he had booked the entire ferris wheel so that Fan Jing didn't have to worry about being recognized. Fan Jing put his hand on the glass window and looked at the scenery outside, feeling a little emotional. He couldn't remember how long it had been since he had last been on a ferris wheel. His thoughts flashed back to the last time he was here with his parents. Just then, Yuzhuo's voice suddenly sounded in his ear. Fan Jing's thoughts were interrupted when Yuzhuo brought up the matter of handling Fan Jing's father earlier that day. Yuzhuo, with a serious expression, apologized sincerely to Fan Jing, explaining that he had acted impulsively out of concern for Fan Jing, who was often bullied. Instead of blaming him, Fan Jing comforted Yuzhuo and thanked him for helping him out of the situation. Looking at Yuzhuo sincerely, Fan Jing expressed that although he had long been accustomed to such situations, this was the first time someone had been by his side when he needed it, which touched him deeply. Hearing this, Yuzhuo hugged Fan Jing in his arms with distress and asked for a chance to protect and care for him. Fan Jing was about to refuse when he suddenly recalled Yuzhuo's confession to him some time ago. He had yet to give Yi Yuxiao a response, and he hesitated, feeling touched. However, there was also an inexplicable sense of retreat and fear in his heart. Fan Jing was unsure about the sincerity of Yi Yuxiao's feelings and whether he could reciprocate them. Ultimately, he chose to push Yi Yuxiao away, saying that he hadn't thought it through yet. Faced with Fan Jing's rejection once again, Yi Yuxiao felt a pang of sadness but couldn't bear to pressure him. He took a step back and acted as if he hadn't brought it up. Understandingly, Yi Yuxiao said that it was right for Fan Jing not to trust him because he hadn't protected Fan Jing well, causing him to be hurt repeatedly by others. Yi Yuxiao then promised Fan Jing that he was willing to wait for the day he could let down his guard and hope that Fan Jing could rely on him more than. Facing such a sincere Yi Yuxiao, Fan Jing was moved but couldn't help but ask him what if that day never came, what if he was just stringing him along? Yi Yuxiao took Fan Jing's hand, brought it to his lips, and kissed it, comforting his anxiety. He then replied that even if that were the case, it wouldn't be Fan Jing's fault because liking him was his own decision, and he would wait forever. Fan Jing hadn't expected Yi Yuxiao to go to such lengths for him and was so moved that he caressed Yi Yuxiao's face. Finally determined to follow his heart, Fan Jing earnestly told Yi Yuxiao his thoughts. Even though their relationship was a gamble for him, this time, he was willing to risk it all for Yi Yuxiao. After saying that, Fan Jing took the initiative to kiss Yi Yuxiao on the lips. Yi Yuxiao's eyes widened in surprise. After the kiss, they both sat upright, subconsciously rubbing their lips. Yi Yuxiao looked at the blushing Fan Jing beside him with a look of relish. Then, Yi Yuxiao pulled Fan Jing's body towards him and told him possessively that he could no longer go back on his word and would always belong to him. Hearing this, Fan Jing's heart skipped a beat. Shy and embarrassed, he weakly retorted, "Who belongs to you? Don't be ashamed." At this moment, the large hand on his waist suddenly reached into Fan Jing's clothes and wandered around restlessly. Fan Jing's legs went weak from the teasing, and he pleaded with Yi Yuxiao not to do it here. Yi Yuxiao leaned close to Fan Jing's ear and whispered, assuring him that no one was watching and to relax. He was just too happy and couldn't help himself. Fan Jing leaned on Yi Yuxiao's shoulder and said in a low voice that he actually liked Ferris wheels when he was a child but later felt that the scenery was meaningless alone. Yi Yuxiao put his arm around Fan Jing's waist and looked at him affectionately, promising that he would not leave him alone and would stay by his side. Then, Yi Yuxiao lowered his head and slowly approached Fan Jing's neck, but just as he was about to succeed, he remembered the photo he had seen in Fan Jing's room and realized that he could make use of the Ferris wheel. Since Fan Jing agreed to Yi Yuxiao's pursuit, Yi Yuxiao became more and more clingy. When Fan Jing joined the production to film, Yi Yuxiao followed him under the guise of visiting the set. On the set of Legend of the Spirit Fox, Fan Jing's manager, Sister Yu, saw Yi Yuxiao and greeted him with a smile. Yi Yuxiao responded coldly and sent her away. He turned his head and saw Fan Jing walking towards him in a handsome ancient costume. His eyes lit up. Fan Jing shyly asked Yi Yuxiao why he was looking at him like that. Yi Yuxiao, without saying a word, put his arm around Fan Jing's waist and pulled him closer, whispering in his ear that he was so good-looking he wanted to hide him away. Fan Jing pushed Yi Yuxiao away, feeling embarrassed and annoyed. She stated firmly that this was a film set. Yi Yuxiao spread his hands and said that if it wasn't, he would do more than that. Fan Jing was at a loss for words because of his rascal behavior. At that moment, the director, Zhong Siyuan, walked over, coming to her rescue. Holding the script, the director guided Fan Jing on the next scene's state and sword-wielding movements. Fan Jing listened attentively and said there was no problem. Yi Yuxiao stood silently by her side, listening until she was done. Only then did he speak up, pointing out with a serious face that the scene was too close to the cliff and posed a certain degree of danger. He suggested that a stunt double should do it. As soon as he finished speaking, Fan Jing and director Zhong Siyuan turned to look at Yi Yuxiao, both with disapproval on their faces. The director's voice turned cold as he stated that no actor had special privileges on his set. Fan Jing immediately patted her chest, assuring the director that she would give her best performance. Turning around, she pulled Yi Yuxiao's arm, signaling him to talk somewhere less crowded. Yi Yuxiao said sulkily that they were professional and dedicated, and he was the one in the way. Fan Jing helplessly told him not to throw a tantrum, reminding him that he was here to observe the filming and didn't need to focus solely on her. Upon hearing this, Yi Yuxiao excitedly stepped forward and wrapped his arms around her waist, asking if she really thought he was throwing a tantrum. Then, he accused her with grievance, saying that she dressed up so beautifully, standing right in front of him, but asked him not to always focus on her. He leaned close to her ear and whispered, "You're not doing this on purpose to make me angry, are you?" Fan Jing blushed at his words in sudden intimacy, not knowing how to react. Fan Jing turned her head and glanced at the crew behind them from the corner of her eye. Seeing that no one was paying attention to them, she suddenly leaned forward and kissed Yi Yuxiao. Then, she fought back her shyness and took the lead in showing weakness, asking him to compromise. Looking at Yi Yuxiao's handsome face, Fan Jing felt that she must have been infected by him to do such a dangerous thing in public. Yi Yuxiao's anger instantly dissipated. He took Fan Jing's hand and placed it on his face, smiling as he said that he didn't expect Fan Jing to be bolder than he imagined. Then, Yi Yuxiao pretended to suddenly realize something and teased Fan Jing, saying that she actually preferred to have some excitement on set. Someone teased Fan Jing, saying he preferred excitement on set. Fan Jing, annoyed, told him to shut up. As Fan Jing left for filming, Yi Yuxiao immediately took out his phone and chatted with his friends. They teased him, saying, "Haven't seen you around lately. Don't tell me you're too busy with that little star." Yi Yuxiao replied, "The fun has just begun." After a day of shooting, Fan Jing was so tired that he lay motionless on the sofa. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao told him to take a shower and have a good rest. Fan Jing weakly said to let him rest for 2 minutes. He hadn't filmed with such intensity for a long time, and he felt like his limbs weren't his own. Suddenly, the phone beside him vibrated. Fan Jing immediately picked it up to check. It was a WeChat message from his agent reminding him that Wu Yan would be joining the production tomorrow and sending him Wu Yan's profile to read beforehand. Yi Yuxiao curiously asked Fan Jing what he was looking at. Fan Jing replied while reading, "The second male lead of this drama is joining the production tomorrow. I have many scenes with him. Hopefully, we can have good chemistry." After hearing this, Yi Yuxiao told Fan Jing not to think about work when he was so tired and leaned over to make him think about him instead. Looking at Yi Yuxiao's face getting closer and closer, Fan Jing couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you tired?" Yi Yuxiao replied, "Definitely, I'm not." Then he gently lifted Fan Jing's chin with his fingertips and warmly suggested, "Why don't you let me help you take a bath?" Hearing Yi Yuxiao's offer to help him bathe, Fan Jing was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter and teased, "The word serve actually exists in young Master Ye's dictionary?" Yi Yuxiao looked at Fan Jing affectionately and said, "Only for you." Then, he picked him up in a princess carry. Fan Jing was so startled that he became speechless. Fan Jing couldn't believe Yi Yuxiao was serious. Yi Yuxiao smiled and told him, "Your man always keeps his word." Fan Jing blushed, his arms wrapped around Yi Yuxiao's neck, obediently letting himself be held. Yi Yuxiao carried Fan Jing all the way to the bathroom door, gently reminding him to be careful before putting him down steadily. Yi Yuxiao opened the bathroom door and followed Fan Jing inside. As the water from the shower poured down, Fan Jing's white shirt became wet, revealing his fit and sculpted figure. Faced with Fan Jing's unintentional wet temptation, Yi Yuxiao couldn't help but step forward, pinning him against the wall. He stated bluntly that what he said about wanting to hide him away wasn't a joke. Without waiting for Fan Jing to respond, Yi Yuxiao held the back of his neck, and in the next second, he lowered his head without hesitation, kissing his lips. The two were pressed tightly together. Fan Jing closed his eyes involuntarily, raising his head to accept the scorching kiss. His hands subconsciously lifted to hold Yi Yuxiao's waist. After an unknown amount of time, Yi Yuxiao reluctantly let go of Fan Jing, his voice low and magnetic, carrying a hint of wanting further intimacy. He asked expectantly, "Can I?" Fan Jing blushed and explained that he still had to work tomorrow. Before he could finish his refusal, Yi Yuxiao spoke up with a pitiful expression, complaining, "I have meetings all day tomorrow and won't see you for a long time." Although Fan Jing knew that Yi Yuxiao's words were exaggerated, he was still defeated by his affectionate and pitiful eyes. He softened and compromised, only asking that he not affect the filming. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Yuxiao naturally agreed readily, afraid that he would go back on his word. Yi Yuxiao bit Fan Jing's neck lightly. The sting brought Fan Jing back to his senses, and he couldn't help but exclaim, "Ow." He said accusingly, "You're like a puppy." Yi Yuxiao immediately responded along with his words, "Yes, I'm a Jing's puppy." He coaxed Fan Jing into a smile, and the two of them started to fool around. The next day, Fan Jing arrived at the set and filmed seriously. After a scene was successfully completed, the assistant came forward and handed him back his phone. During the break, Fan Jing sat in a chair and let the assistant massage his shoulders, but his mind was on Yi Yuxiao. He wondered if he would come today. Perhaps it was his wishful thinking, but as soon as Fan Jing opened his phone, a message from Yi Yuxiao popped up in the chat window. The words resonated with him so perfectly that Fan Jing couldn't help but wonder if Yi Yuxiao had the ability to read his mind. Fan Jing wanted Yi Yuxiao to come over, but he was also worried that Yi Yuxiao might be tired after a long day. He hesitated for a long time, staring at his phone without replying, but a sweet smile crept onto his face, betraying his true feelings. His unusual behavior caught the attention of his assistant, who playfully teased him with curious questions. Fan Jing responded with a feigned annoyance, causing the assistant to laugh and quickly apologize. As the assistant retreated, he accidentally bumped into someone. Panicked, he immediately turned around to apologize, only to find that the person he bumped into was Wu Yan, the second male lead who had just joined the production that day. Wu Yan, instead of reprimanding the assistant for his clumsiness, walked towards Fan Jing with a gentle and polite demeanor to greet him. He introduced himself humbly as a newcomer. Fan Jing shook his hand with a smile and returned the courtesy. When the assistant recovered from the shock and apologized again sincerely, Wu Yan patted his shoulder, indicating that he didn't mind at all. His easygoing attitude made Fan Jing like his co-star even more. Wu Yan, in a friendly manner, mentioned that his old friend also worked at Xingyu Entertainment, the same company as Fan Jing. Before Fan Jing could ask for the friend's name, Yi Yuxiao's sudden arrival interrupted their conversation. Yi Yuxiao sized up the strange man in front of him with hostility before turning to Fan Jing. Catching Yi Yuxiao's look, Fan Jing hurriedly introduced Wu Yan and Yi Yuxiao to each other. However, in the middle of the introductions, Wu Yan realized with surprise that he actually knew Yi Yuxiao. He excitedly rushed forward to greet Yi Yuxiao, whom he hadn't seen in years. It took a while for Yi Yuxiao to recognize the stranger in front of him. He seemed to be an old classmate whom he hadn't seen in years. He hesitantly asked if he was the Wu Yan he remembered. Wu Yan, however, complained about Yi Yuxiao's slow reaction in a familiar tone. Fan Jing looked at their interaction, confused, and asked in surprise if they knew each other. Yi Yuxiao was about to answer when Wu Yan interrupted her. "We're old classmates." Wu Yan continued, saying to Yi Yuxiao that he had just mentioned to Fan Jing that he had an old friend at Xingyu Entertainment, and they ran into each other right afterwards. Wu Yan did all the talking, leaving Yi Yuxiao to awkwardly acquiesce. Wu Yan then tactfully excused himself, leaving Yi Yuxiao and Fan Jing alone. Soon, his assistant came rushing over with muscle relief patches. The assistant excitedly ran over with muscle relief patches, urging Fan Jing to apply them in the trailer before the next scene. Yi Yuxiao took the patches and turned to ask Fan Jing with concern why he needed them. Fan Jing replied casually that he might have overexerted himself during the fight scene. In the trailer, Yi Yuxiao held the patches, lost in thought about Wu Yan's acting career. Fan Jing obediently lay face down, asking Yi Yuxiao how long it had been since he last saw his old classmate, Wu Yan, and why they hadn't chatted more. A glint flashed across Yi Yuxiao's eyes as he slipped a hand mischievously under Fan Jing's shirt, stroking his lower back, while replying casually that they could reminisce any time, as there were more important things to do now. Fan Jing's face flushed bright red instantly, and he stammered a warning for Yi Yuxiao to focus on applying the patches and stop taking advantage of him. Seizing the opportunity, Yi Yuxiao smoothly applied the patch and offered to give Fan Jing a massage. Fan Jing expressed great satisfaction with the massage, sighing that Yi Yuxiao was so skilled. Leaning closer, Yi Yuxiao whispered suggestively, implying that he was capable of much more, and no one knew this better than Fan Jing. Lowering his voice further, Yi Yuxiao whispered into Fan Jing's ear, asking if he knew what he was thinking right now. A beat later, he answered his own question, confessing that he was thinking about Fan Jing in this costume, being loved by him. Overwhelmed with shyness at this blatant, suggestive confession, Fan Jing flipped over to face Yi Yuxiao, flusteredly demanding he restrain himself and respect his employee. Yi Yuxiao only chuckled, retorting that this was his way of showing the utmost respect. Seeing Fan Jing on the verge of being truly flustered, he pulled him up and, deciding not to tease him further, let the matter drop. Straightening Fan Jing's collar, Yi Yuxiao spoke with a mixture of indulgence and concern, telling him not to overwork himself. He urged Fan Jing to consider him, and suggested speaking to the director about using a stunt double for some of the fight scenes, assuring him there wouldn't be any problems. At the mention of the director, Fan Jing suddenly recalled that Yi Yuxiao had helped him secure the audition opportunity and couldn't help but feel curious about their relationship. Yi Yuxiao casually mentioned that the director was his uncle. Fan Jing echoed the term uncle nonchalantly, then a second later, the realization hit him, and he was left speechless by Yi Yuxiao's shockingly vast network. Seeing this, Yi Yuxiao soothed Fan Jing, assuring him that he had nothing to worry about. The director chose him for the leading role purely based on his talent. Yi Yuxiao teased that he had no power to command the director. Fan Jing expressed his agreement and, recalling the director's dedication and meticulousness, couldn't help but express his gratitude for the rewarding filming experience. Unexpectedly, Yi Yuxiao instantly bristled, pinching Fan Jing's face and warning him fiercely not to praise other men in front of him. Looking at Yi Yuxiao's jealous behavior, Fan Jing laughed at his childishness. Gazing at Fan Jing's smiling face, ripples of emotion stirred within Yi Yuxiao. A strange feeling arose. He couldn't understand why he wasn't tired of Fan Jing even though they were already together. On the contrary, the more time they spent together, the more he craved. Yi Yuzhuo leaned down, his hand finding Fan Jing's waist, pulling him close for a kiss. His other hand braced against the wall, trapping Fan Jing and leaving him no room to retreat. Their tongues intertwined in a passionate dance. Clothes and shoes lay scattered on the floor, evidence of the fierce battle that had transpired. It was unclear how much time had passed before Fan Jing, on the verge of being kissed breathless, was finally released from Yi Yuzhuo's fervent embrace. Deeply afraid that Yi Yuzhuo would lose control again, Fan Jing blushed and shyly suggested they leave early for the filming. Yi Yuzhuo sighed, saying he really didn't want to let him go to work. Seizing the opportunity, Fan Jing poked Yi Yuzhuo's forehead playfully, accusing the dignified CEO of slacking off. Yi Yuzhuo grumbled in dissatisfaction. Just then, a phone rang, and Yi Yuzhuo turned, saying uncertainly that it seemed to be his phone. As soon as he answered, his secretary reported that Dongyan Media was trying to sabotage their joint project. Yi Yuzhuo inquired about what Dongyan had done. Fan Jing sat on the edge of the bed, listening intently to Yi Yuzhuo's call. The name Dongyan sounded familiar, and he soon realized it was the company of that Mr. Chen. The secretary reported to Yi Yuzhuo that two Xingyu artists had specifically cleared their schedules to participate in a program, but the platform was deliberately making things difficult. Yi Yuzhuo stated that they could not back down when it involved the rights and interests of their artists. Then, Yi Yuzhuo asked his secretary to inform the company executives to have a meeting in half an hour. He decisively expressed his expectation for a head-on confrontation with Dongyan and vowed to fight to the end. Yi Yuzhuo's calm and domineering demeanor while working completely overturned Fan Jing's initial impression of him as all style and no substance. He realized that Ye's abilities truly matched his status as CEO. Yi Yuzhuo hung up the phone and turned around to see Fan Jing looking at him with admiration and adoration in his eyes. He couldn't help but smile and asked Fan Jing if he was mesmerized. Fan Jing stood up and asked Yi Yuzhuo if Mr. Chen might be instigating Dongyan's uncooperative behavior. Yi Yuzhuo agreed and felt that this matter was most likely orchestrated by that old fox. Hearing this, Fan Jing guessed that it was because he didn't give Mr. Chen face last time. Yi Yuzhuo interrupted Fan Jing's speculation and praised him for refusing well. He comforted Fan Jing, saying that being tolerant would only lead to the other party pushing their limits. Fan Jing said from the bottom of his heart that since entering the entertainment industry, this was the first time he had heard someone tell him that adapting and yielding to the so-called rules was wrong. Yi Yuzhuo immediately assured Fan Jing that as long as he remained the boss of Xingyu Entertainment, he would never allow anyone to step on their artists. Fan Jing grabbed Yi Yuzhuo's arm gratefully. Yi Yuzhuo took the opportunity to tease him and ask for a reward. Fan Jing blushed instantly. However, he still mustered up the courage to tiptoe and kiss Yi Yuzhuo's cheek. He shyly thanked Yi Yuzhuo for being a responsible and dedicated person. As he was leaving, Yi Yuzhuo looked back and winked, playfully hinting that he would ask for more rewards from Fan Jing tonight. After finishing his work, Yi Yuzhuo came to Fan Jing's filming set and was spotted by Wu Yan, who was watching the male and female leads film. Wu Yan commented that Yi Yuzhuo was really dedicated to his employees, visiting the set every day. Yi Yuzhuo was surprised to see Wu Yan but quickly recovered and asked what Wu Yan was filming. Wu Yan used simple terms to explain to Yi Yuzhuo that they were currently filming the scene where the male and female leads fall in love at first sight. Changing the subject, Wu Yan casually mentioned to Yi Yuzhuo that the female lead really admires Fan Jing in private. Off-screen, the female lead has a huge crush on Fan Jing and follows him around all the time. As expected, Yi Yuzhuo's face instantly darkened with jealousy. Seeing Yi Yuzhuo's displeasure, Wu Yan, who had successfully sown discord, smiled smugly from a distance. That evening, as soon as Fan Jing returned to their room, he excitedly shared the day's filming anecdotes with Yi Yuzhuo, lamenting that Yi had missed those two scenes. Yi Yuzhuo sat on the sofa with his arms crossed, his face sullen, and retorted that there was nothing to be sorry about. Seeing his evident displeasure, Fan Jing mistakenly thought it was due to issues with the company project. Faced with Fan Jing's concern, Yi Yuzhuo honestly admitted that he wasn't happy. He grabbed Fan Jing's wrist and pulled him into his arms. Fan Jing, following the force, straddled Ye's lap. Just as Yi Yuzhuo began to explain the reason for his unhappiness, the doorbell suddenly rang. Fan Jing got up to open the door. To Fan Jing's surprise, it was his female co-star standing at the door, dressed rather skimpily. Facing a woman dressed like this visiting him late at night, Fan Jing froze, unsure how to react. The woman broke the awkward silence first, playfully asking Fan Jing to invite her in. Fan Jing collected himself and politely declined, using the excuse of a messy room. The woman showed a disappointed expression but didn't push it. The next second, she offered him a bottle of massage oil with a bright smile. Fan Jing was puzzled. The woman explained that she heard from his assistant about his muscle strain and brought this for him. Then she reminded him with a smile not to forget the crew dinner tomorrow. Fan Jing thanked her and saw her out. As soon as she left, Yi Yuxiao eagerly pulled Fan Jing back, slammed the door shut, and pressed him against it. He nuzzled his neck, acting coy to convince him not to go tomorrow night. Fan Jing, flustered and shy from Yi Yuxiao's intimacy, turned slightly to maintain some distance and asked him why. Yi Yuxiao said tenderly that they were both busy during the day and only had evenings together. He wanted Fan Jing to stay with him. Fan Jing cupped Yi Yuxiao's face, looking into his tender eyes, unable to refuse. He could only appease him, saying he'd come back as soon as possible after the dinner. Dissatisfied with Fan Jing's response, Yi Yuxiao wrapped his arms around his waist, threatening to tire him out so much that he wouldn't be able to get out of bed. Fan Jing was startled and warned Yi Yuxiao not to joke around. Yi Yuxiao interlocked his fingers with Fan Jing's. He said seriously that he wasn't joking. Then, with a hint of jealousy, he expressed his dislike for Fan Jing being so close to that girl. After he finished speaking, he sealed his lips with his own. Only when Fan Jing was breathless, his face flushed and clothes disheveled from the kiss, did Yi Yuxiao release him. Gasping, Fan Jing told Yi Yuxiao that it didn't matter what the girl thought, what mattered was that he already had him. Yi Yuxiao was still sulking and said angrily that he saw the girl clinging to Fan Jing all day. Fan Jing explained that it was just work. Fan Jing realized that Yi Yuxiao was being unusually sensitive, nitpicking over such trivial matters. He asked him what was wrong. Yi Yuxiao finally exploded, saying angrily that he regretted helping Fan Jing get this role. Fan Jing lost his patience. He had explained everything he could. He asked helplessly if Yi Yuxiao didn't trust him. Yi Yuxiao said that as long as Fan Jing threw away the medicated oil the girl gave him, he would believe him. Fan Jing hesitated, telling him not to be ridiculous. Yi Yuxiao angrily snatched the bottle, saying he would throw it away for him. Fan Jing couldn't stop him in time and watched helplessly as the medicated oil arced through the air and landed in the trash can. He roared at Yi Yuxiao, telling him to stop making a scene. Yi Yuxiao laughed in anger and said he was the one making a scene. After that, he turned around and slammed the door behind him. Fan Jing watched him leave, unable to stop him. As soon as Yi Yuxiao went out, he ran into Wu Yan. Seeing the troubled look on his face, Wu Yan suggested they go out for a drink. They arrived at the bar. Yi Yuxiao remained silent, only drinking. Wu Yan swirled his glass leisurely and asked Yi Yuxiao indirectly if he was dating Fan Jing. Yi Yuxiao looked up in surprise and asked him why he would think that. Wu Yan explained that he rarely saw Yi Yuxiao lose his composure unless it was something he cared about, so he thought something must have happened between them. It was only then that Yi Yuxiao, an onlooker, realized in disbelief that he had lost his cool because of Fan Jing. Wu Yan had never seen Yi Yuxiao so troubled over anyone. He was secretly startled and couldn't help but guess if Yi Yuxiao was serious about Fan Jing. The next day, Fan Jing stared at his phone absent-mindedly while putting on makeup. He realized that Yi Yuxiao hadn't contacted him since last night. Fan Jing was very worried, afraid that Yi Yuxiao was still angry and he didn't know what to do. Just then, he heard the director call for the actors. He had no choice but to put it aside for the moment. The girl went to the director to watch Fan Jing act. Unexpectedly, Fan Jing was in poor condition in front of the camera and made frequent mistakes in his acting. He even got hurt accidentally during the filming of the fight scene. The director couldn't help but yell cut and walked up. Fan Jing offered to do it again. The director reminded him to adjust his state and focus when acting. Fan Jing hastily nodded in agreement with the director. He knew his reaction was slow because his mind was preoccupied with Yi Yuxiao. He recalled advising Yi Yuxiao to separate emotions from work, yet he couldn't do it himself. Lost in his thoughts, he didn't even notice the female lead approaching. Snapping back to reality, he told the actress that he had something to discuss with her later. After work, Fan Jing returned to his trailer. Only when he was alone did he realize that although it had only been a day since he last contacted Yi Yuxiao, it felt incredibly agonizing. Fan Jing realized that Yi Yuxiao was acting up because he cared about him. However, he hadn't considered Yi Yuxiao's feelings and had called him unreasonable. He felt guilty looking at their chat history filled with Yi Yuxiao's coquettish and sweet messages. Fan Jing felt even more at a loss, unsure of what to do. But he knew he couldn't just sit and wait any longer. Before he could take any action, the trailer door suddenly opened. Fan Jing looked up in surprise to see Yi Yuxiao standing before him. Yi Yuxiao rushed forward and grabbed Fan Jing's wrist, anxiously asking about his injury from filming. Fan Jing assured him it was just a minor bump, not a real injury. He then asked Yi Yuxiao how he knew about it. Yi Yuxiao replied that his assistant had told him. Fan Jing, pleasantly surprised, asked if he had rushed over because of the injury. Yi Yuxiao looked away, pouting, and retorted, "So what if I did?" Yi Yuxiao turned his head arrogantly and said, "So what?" He denied caring and claimed he was just meddling. Anyway, Fan Jing had plenty of people concerned about him and the crew. Then, using not wanting to interrupt the crew's dinner as an excuse, Yi Yuxiao turned to leave. Fan Jing immediately grabbed him, saying he didn't plan to go to the dinner. The scene flashes back to the moment when Fan Jing told the female lead he had something to say. It turns out he meant he had a date that night and couldn't attend the dinner, and he clearly rejected the female lead's feelings. The flashback ends. At this moment, Fan Jing leaned against Yi Yuxiao's chest, willingly compromising to make him happy. Yi Yuxiao, who had been annoyed all day, didn't intend to let Fan Jing off easily. Deciding to teach him a lesson, he pinned Fan Jing down and asked what he wanted to do. Fan Jing looked at Yi Yuxiao intently and said he wanted him to stay. Yi Yuxiao thought this was a good opportunity to make Fan Jing submit out of guilt. However, he appeared flustered on the surface, turning his head to hide his confusion and stammering that he would reluctantly agree, seeing Fan Jing was so sincere. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's serious yet adorable and proud demeanor, Fan Jing couldn't help but cover his mouth and laugh. Hearing the laughter, Yi Yuxiao became angry out of embarrassment and said he was still mad. Fan Jing laughed and said he wasn't making fun of him, just happy. Yi Yuxiao, surprised by the affection, repeatedly confirmed with Fan Jing if he was happy because he forgave him, realizing how much he cared. After getting an unequivocal affirmative answer from Fan Jing, Yi Yuxiao was stunned. Fan Jing wanted to further explain, but Yi Yuxiao didn't give him the chance. He told him that even if he had said nice things, it wouldn't be that easy to move on. Pulling off his tie, he asked if he was ready to accept punishment. Fan Jing watched as Yi Yuxiao tied his wrist with a tie, shyly realizing that the punishment he mentioned was this. Yi Yuxiao raised Fan Jing's bound hands high above his head, leaned in mischievously, and teased that skipping the dinner meant they had time for other things. Seeing Yi Yuxiao in front of him, Fan Jing nervously asked him, "What are you going to do with my hands tied?" Seeing Fan Jing so shy, Yi Yuxiao told him not to play dumb. Realizing what was happening, Fan Jing warned him that someone could come in at any time. Sure enough, the assistant suddenly appeared outside the door, asking if he had changed clothes. Fan Jing nervously said no, and the confused assistant had to leave, saying they would handle the fan club and come back later. Just as Fan Jing was wondering if the assistant heard Yi Yuxiao's voice, his hands were suddenly raised high. Looking at the eager person in front of him, he quickly blushed and refused, telling him the assistant would be back soon. However, at this moment, Yi Yuxiao was captivated by his vulnerable and helpless appearance. Then he leaned into Fan Jing's ear and teasingly told him to cooperate if he didn't want to be discovered. Hearing this, Fan Jing's heart started to struggle intensely. He was both scared and happy, but at this moment, he realized that apart from Yi Yuxiao, there was no room for anyone else in his heart. Thinking of this, he trembled as he reached out to the other person. Seeing the other's confusion, he pitifully asked Yi Yuxiao to move closer. Then, he grabbed Yi Yuxiao's neck and initiated a kiss. Yi Yuxiao was startled by Fan Jing's action and widened his eyes. Then, he cooperated and fell down. The next day, after finishing filming, Wu Yan heard the staff praising his dedication and smiled, saying it was his duty. While he was absent-mindedly looking at his phone and listening to the staff's praises, he finally saw Yi Yuxiao. Wu Yan hurriedly approached him. He heard Yi Yuxiao on the phone asking about director Jia Ming's new movie. Hearing that it was the movie he had long wanted to compete for, Wu Yan's heart was filled with anticipation. The next second, he heard Yi Yuxiao tell the person on the phone that he wanted to secure the project for Fan Jing. At that moment, Fan Jing also came over. Hearing footsteps behind him, Yi Yuxiao quickly mentioned he was busy, hung up the phone, and then casually greeted Fan Jing. Watching the two being affectionate as if no one else was around, Wu Yan hid behind a tree, grinding his teeth in anger. After a while of being affectionate, Fan Jing began to seriously read the script. Suddenly, the script in his hand was snatched away, catching him off guard. Yi Yuxiao leaned in with a smirk, looking at how Fan Jing was startled. Yi Yuxiao was very pleased. To ease the awkwardness, Fan Jing quickly changed the subject and asked about the phone call. Yi Yuxiao, who was in a playful mood, told him it was good news and asked if he wanted to know. But just as the two were bantering, Wu Yan interrupted them with drinks. Wu Yan specifically handed one cup to Fan Jing, then awkwardly gave the other to Yi Yuxiao, telling him it was special unsweetened grapefruit tea from 3/4 time. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao was stunned. Seeing his confusion, Wu Yan mischievously told him that not only was the shop still open, but the owner also still remembered him. Then he mentioned the owner asked about Yi Yuxiao. This made Yi Yuxiao feel awkward and caused Fan Jing, standing behind, to misunderstand. He had always thought Yi Yuxiao and Wu Yan were just ordinary classmates. But seeing how well they were getting along, he started to question their relationship. At this moment, Wu Yan had an idea and asked Yuzhuo if he remembered the small restaurant next to Shang's dessert shop. He reminded him that he still owed him a meal. Hearing this, Yuzhuo told him he wouldn't renege on his debt. However, Wu Yan suddenly grabbed Fan Jing's arm, suggesting they go today. Fan Jing awkwardly told him he didn't want to go, but Wu Yan, undeterred by the refusal, insisted on making Yuzhuo pay. Yuzhuo looked at the shy Fan Jing with a doting expression. There's no choice, so Fan Jing can only agree, but internally he doesn't understand why he is being asked to go when he can't contribute to the conversation. Seeing things progressing so smoothly, Wu Yan reveals a mischievous smile of success. Moments later, several people appear in a small restaurant. Looking at the dishes on the table, Yuzhuo is shocked that Wu Yan actually remembers his taste. Yuzhuo is shocked that Wu Yan still remembers his taste. Seeing his discovery, Wu Yan is relieved that his memory hasn't deteriorated, then seemingly casually tells Fan Jing. Yuzhuo is very picky, making dining with him quite troublesome. Hearing this, Fan Jing can only awkwardly force a smile. Suddenly, Wu Yan gets scalded. Seeing this, Yuzhuo quickly grabs his hand, anxiously asking if he is alright. Seeing his concern, Wu Yan shyly admits he is not that delicate. Then, while complaining about the air conditioning not working, he reaches out to wipe the sweat off Yuzhuo. Fan Jing, feeling invisible, awkwardly watches the steam rise from Wu Yan's tea, and in a daze, accidentally knocks a bowl off the table. The noise finally catches the attention of the two reminiscing. Seeing them both looking at him, Fan Jing can only explain that it was an accident. He wonders if he's overthinking, but feels that Wu Yan is exceptionally warm towards Yuzhuo. Then, Wu Yan gets up to serve him soup with an unused bowl. Fan Jing quickly thanks him. Seeing Wu Yan's kindness towards him as well, he suddenly thinks that maybe it's just Wu Yan's personality and he's been too sensitive. At this moment, he notices Yuzhuo smiling and daydreaming. Lost in thought, Yuzhuo went home, bathed, and found himself dwelling on the dinner scene. He didn't expect Wu Yan to still remember the past. After bathing, he entered the room only to find that Fan Jing had already gone to bed. He approached and touched Fan Jing's shoulder, asking why he went to sleep without waiting for him. Fan Jing said faintly that he was tired. Realizing something was off with his tone, as if he was in a bad mood, Yuzhuo immediately asked if he didn't like the dinner. Hearing this, Fan Jing sourly told him it had nothing to do with the food, he shouldn't have interfered with their reunion. After saying that, he was stunned, not expecting to say something so petulant. At this moment, Yuzhuo realized and teased him, asking if he was jealous of Wu Yan. Seeing that Fan Jing could still joke, he got even more annoyed. However, seeing him get jealous made Yuzhuo extremely happy. Seeing that he had no intention of explaining, Fan Jing couldn't help but ask. Yet, Yuzhuo told him he cherished the past because he went abroad for high school, so he valued old friends more. Then, he told Fan Jing not to overthink and to always trust his feelings for him. After hearing this, Fan Jing had no choice but to agree. However, he still remained concerned about their relationship, having never seen Yuzhuo so happy and nostalgic before. Wanting to ask Yuzhuo why he hadn't told him about his relationship with Wu Yan before, he found himself unable to ask. He felt perhaps he should be more proactive. With this thought, he involuntarily drew closer to him. The next day, Yuzhuo went to the set with Fan Jing as usual. Seeing him focusing on the script, he tried to draw Fan Jing's attention. However, Fan Jing didn't even lift his head, forcing Yuzhuo to turn Fan Jing's face towards him. And looking pitifully, he asked him to tidy himself up, but Fan Jing told him not to fuss and that he needed to review his lines. Hearing this, Yuzhuo, self-admiringly, said that the lines weren't as good-looking as he was. Fan Jing, laughing, told him he hadn't noticed that. Seeing him so self-involved, Yuzhuo directly leaned in closer for him to take another look. Such an ambiguous movement made Fan Jing involuntarily back away. Hearing the other party ask what he was dodging, Fan Jing, bashfully turning his head, blamed him for always attacking suddenly. Then, he took the initiative to get closer and returned a kiss. Hearing the others say he had learned bad things, Fan Jing quickly stated he learned it all from him. Looking at the person in front of him, Yuzhuo couldn't understand why, despite supposedly being immune to such things, his heart was still beating so fast. Just as the two were about to take a step further, the door was opened. It was Wu Yan coming to review lines with Fan Jing. The caught duo quickly separated, and Yuzhuo hurriedly said he just happened to have something to do and told Fan Jing to act well. Seeing him about to leave, Wu Yan, with a face full of anticipation, told him that today was his big scene. Hearing this, Yuzhuo rubbed his head, telling him he would come to visit his set next time. After he left, Wu Yan told Fan Jing that he felt Yuzhuo had changed a lot. Seeing the other's confusion, Wu Yan sat beside him and told him that back in middle school, if Yuzhuo was unhappy, he would show it on his face. Only he gets along well with him. Yet, even though Fan Jing is curious about Yi Xuxiao's past, he doesn't want to hear it from Wu Yan's mouth. Meanwhile, Wu Yan keeps talking about how he was bullied by thugs in school and how Yi Xuxiao helped him out. At this moment, Fan Jing wonders if it's because he's too cynical, but he can't help feeling that Wu Yan is showing off how Yi Xuxiao used to take care of him. Then, Wu Yan mentions that he once advised Yi Xuxiao to be gentler to others. It seems he took his advice. Feeling awkward, Fan Jing can only suggest going over their lines. Wu Yan, seeing the situation, decides to drop the subject, saying he almost forgot about the work at hand. Seeing Fan Jing's reaction, he knows his seed has been planted, just waiting for it to sprout. Meanwhile, a friend tells Yi Xuxiao that he met someone at an event and asks if he wants to know who. Mysteriously, he says Wu Yan is also acting, reminding Yi Xuxiao that this man was his unrequited first love from middle school. However, Yi Xuxiao calmly says he has already seen him. Hearing this, the friend gossips and tells him not to miss the opportunity this time. But Yi Xuxiao says he has no intention of pursuing Wu Yan anymore and just sees him as a friend, thinking it's nice to have a friend to reminisce about the past with. However, his friends are shocked by his reaction. Just then, his phone on the table rings. It's Fan Jing. He hurriedly answers, hearing the other side calling him baby. Fan Jing quickly tells him he has just finished shooting and is a bit tired. Yi Xuxiao asks if this is when he starts to appreciate the value of a power bank. The two of them just enjoy each other's breathing, feeling satisfied even without saying anything. Seeing Yi Xuxiao smile tenderly at the phone, his friends can only find it unbelievable. Even after hanging up the phone, Yi Xuxiao was still lost in thought, holding the phone absent-mindedly. After a long while, he finally put down the phone and picked up the glass on the table to drink. Just after hanging up the phone, he picked up the wine glass on the desk and started drinking. The next second, Yi Xuxiao entered the door, and Fan Jing, who was waiting at the dining table, hurriedly greeted him. Fan Jing, dressed meticulously, dazzled the other person, who quickly approached and asked if he had dressed up so nicely just to have dinner with him. Looking at the man in front of him, Fan Jing shyly stated that what he did was just basic etiquette. Hearing this, Yi Xuxiao caught him, smelled his scent, and confirmed that this was his way of extending an invitation. Seeing Yi Xuxiao being so presumptuous, Fan Jing blushed and asked him to let go, telling him that the waiter would come to serve the food soon. But at this moment, Yi Xuxiao was not in the mood to eat. All he wanted was to devour the person in front of him. Seeing him becoming more and more outrageous, Fan Jing slapped him away and sternly warned him not to talk such indecent talk in public. Soon, the waiter began serving the dishes. When Yi Xuxiao was shocked to see that this restaurant could make purse-shaped red carp fish, he was very pleased, and so was Fan Jing. At that time, the waiter explained that the restaurant originally didn't have this dish. Seeing this, Fan Jing quickly interrupted the waiter, saying that he had it made because he had heard Yi Xuxiao mention wanting to eat it before, and he did this to prevent the other party from teasing him once they knew the truth. He never thought he would go to such lengths for a date, and Yi Xuxiao also didn't expect that, having mentioned it only once, Fan Jing would actually remember it. After feeling a wave of emotion, he sincerely thanked Fan Jing. Seeing him so earnest, Fan Jing shyly handed him the chopsticks, telling him not to waste food. Unexpectedly, the other person put away his seriousness and leaned in, asking to be fed by him personally. Fan Jing complained that he was being too demanding, but still picked up the chopsticks to fulfill his request. Yi Xuxiao swallowed the food in one bite and happily suggested that Fan Jing try some too. Seeing him so happy, Fan Jing also felt satisfied. However, there was a bit of selfishness in his actions. Thinking back to Wu Yan's previous boasting to him made him unhappy. Although competing for favor seemed childish, he didn't want to be outdone. He then told Yi Xuxiao that Wu Yan had talked to him about some high school matters. After hearing this, the other person asked what was said. Believing that lovers shouldn't be suspicious and should be direct, Fan Jing expressed his curiosity about their relationship. Carefully, he asked Yi Xuxiao if he and Wu Yan had ever dated. Hearing this, Yi Xuxiao quickly denied it and promised that he and Wu Yan were just friends, both in the past and present. He then picked up a piece of fish to feed Fan Jing. He knew that ever since Wu Yan appeared, Fan Jing had been suspicious. Fan Jing, feeling disappointed, admitted that he was jealous because they shared irreplaceable memories. Yi Xuxiao told him that memories can be created and, while touching his leg, suggested they create some happy memories tonight. Seeing that he was being serious and the other party was ruining the mood, Fan Jing angrily hit his head. After adjusting the atmosphere, Yi Xuxiao told Fan Jing not to frown. He hoped the other party would be happy being with him. Listening to the sweet talk from the other party, Fan Jing quickly changed the subject, not understanding why he still wasn't used to hearing sweet words after so long. Even just eating with him would still make his heart race as long as they were together. At this moment, Yi Xuxiao's phone suddenly rang, and it was Wu Yan. Fan Jing pretended to be nonchalant while picking up the dish in front of him, not understanding in his heart why Wu Yan always jumped out to disturb his alone time with Yi Xuxiao. While Fan Jing was thinking, Yi Yuxiao picked up the call from Wu Yan and asked him what was going on. Listening to their conversation, Fan Jing didn't understand why every time he thought he had gotten rid of Wu Yan, he would appear again. He didn't know what Wu Yan was saying on the other end, but he heard Yi Yuxiao tell him not to worry and to speak slowly. Fan Jing knew he didn't share their past memories, but he was the one by his side now. However, when he heard Yi Yuxiao scold Wu Yan for being careless and telling him to stay put while he went over immediately, Fan Jing still clenched his hands. Just as he couldn't understand why Yuxiao was so gentle with Wu Yan, the call ended. After hanging up, Yi Yuxiao hesitated on how to speak to Fan Jing. After thinking for a moment, he still told Fan Jing that Wu Yan had a situation and he had to go check it out. While getting up to serve soup, Fan Jing asked why he didn't call his assistant. Yuxiao explained that the assistant was out of town and couldn't make it back, and said it was urgent. He was just going to take a look, but before he could finish, Fan Jing couldn't stand it anymore, slammed the bowl down and questioned Wu Yan. Why can't you ask other friends to go? Why must Yi Yuxiao be the one to go? After speaking, Fan Jing dejectedly sat back down on his chair. He couldn't believe he had lost his composure out of jealousy. He had planned to enjoy the date today. After calming down, he leaned in and told Yi Yuxiao that he had picked the restaurant for their date after much consideration. Then he earnestly begged him to stay with him. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao seemed very troubled, but still told Fan Jing that although he wanted to accompany him, Wu Yan was his friend and he couldn't just ignore him, hoping he could understand. Saying this, Yi Yuxiao stood up, ready to leave. Fan Jing sadly reminded him that he had just said there was nothing special between him and Wu Yan. Yi Yuxiao turned back, impatiently telling him, "That's a different matter. I would help any friend in trouble." Then, kissing his forehead, he asked him not to be angry and promised to make up for it with an even more perfect date. Watching Yi Yuxiao's retreating figure, Fan Jing knew that all he could think about was rushing to Wu Yan's side. At that moment, a waiter brought over a dessert, telling him it was ordered by Yi Yuxiao before he left and that the bill had already been settled. However, these consolations weren't what he wanted. He didn't need a more perfect date either, just hoping that Yi Yuxiao would prioritize him. Thinking of this, a tear of grievance fell on the dessert in front of him. The next day, as Fan Jing was applying makeup while reading the script, Yi Yuxiao and Wu Yan appeared together and greeted him. Seeing them together, Fan Jing suspected they had been together since last night. Fan Jing suspects they have been together since last night. Just as he was thinking, Yi Yuxiao comes over with a smile, asking if he slept well last night. However, Fan Jing doesn't want to deal with him at all. He just calmly says that he needs to prepare his lines and that they can talk later. Watching Fan Jing walk away, thinking he's angry about last night, Yi Yuxiao decides to cheer him up later. On the other hand, the reason Fan Jing quickly avoided Yi Yuxiao was simply because he hadn't sorted out his feelings and didn't want to say anything hurtful. At this moment, a piece of chocolate is handed to Fan Jing. He looks up to see it's Zhong Siyuan, who noticed that he looked a bit pale because he hadn't had breakfast and was concerned about him. Fan Jing didn't expect the other person to be so attentive, even noticing he hadn't eaten breakfast. Worried about a misunderstanding, Zhong Siyuan explains that he's just afraid Fan Jing might faint during filming and people would say he mistreats actors. Fan Jing thinks this expression is too exaggerated. Meanwhile, Yi Yuxiao behind them is keeping an eye on the two who are chatting and laughing. He doesn't understand why Fan Jing deliberately ignores him but happily chats with his uncle. Seeing Yi Yuxiao being absent-minded, Wu Yan realizes that Yi Yuxiao really cares about Fan Jing's every move. In the makeup room of the crew, Wu Yan proactively apologizes to Fan Jing, saying he hurt his hand last night and delayed Fan Jing and Yi Yuxiao's dinner. Hearing this, Fan Jing concernedly asks how his hand is now. Wu Yan smiles, raising his hand, and tells him it's fine now. Thankfully, Yi Yuxiao found him a very good private doctor. Although there had been some speculation before, Fan Jing now confirmed that the other party was intentionally saying those things to get under his skin. After figuring it out, Fan Jing calmly remarked that it was no wonder nothing seemed off during the shoot today. Fortunately, the injury wasn't serious. Realizing he was being mocked for making a big deal out of nothing, Wu Yan didn't expect that Fan Jing could also be sharp-tongued. With this in mind, he deliberately knocked off the pendant that Fan Jing had placed on the table while putting something down. Seeing this, Fan Jing called out an alarm, quickly reaching out to catch it, but it was too late. He watched as the pendant fell to the ground and broke. Seeing his anxious expression, Wu Yan quickly apologized and explained that he had accidentally knocked it off. At this moment, Yi Yuxiao asked from outside the door whether they had finished packing up and said he was coming in. Hearing this, Wu Yan had a new idea. Maybe he could use this opportunity to create a misunderstanding between them. On the other side, Fan Jing was still blaming himself for placing the pendant in a spot where it could easily fall and wondered if it could be repaired. At this moment, Wu Yan moved closer, comforting him by saying that breaking it was like warding off disaster. He reached out to take a look at the pendant, but just as he was about to touch it, Fan Jing suddenly grabbed his hand and warned him not to touch his things. At this moment, Yuzhuo walked in. Wu Yan quickly cried out in pain and told Fan Jing that he had grabbed his injured hand, and this scene was witnessed by Yuzhuo. Yuzhuo immediately stepped forward and grabbed Fan Jing's wrist, sternly telling him to let go. Then, without waiting for an explanation, he questioned Fan Jing on why he was taking his bad mood out on Wu Yan. Suddenly, Fan Jing was startled by Yi Sun's unexpected scolding and froze on the spot. Seeing the timing was right, Wu Yan explained that he had accidentally damaged the pendant first, which caused the other party to lose control temporarily, and told him not to misunderstand. Looking at the two before him, Fan Jing was extremely upset. Yi Sun didn't understand anything, but his first reaction was to think that he was making it difficult for Wu Yan. Suddenly, he found the whole situation ridiculous, realizing that it was they who had a deep friendship, and he was the unnecessary villain. However, at this moment, Yi Sun simply didn't understand, it was just a broken pendant. Why would Fan Jing get so angry? Then he stepped forward to pat Fan Jing, comforting him that Wu Yan didn't do it on purpose and told him not to be angry. However, the other party just brushed off his hand and coldly told him it wasn't his place to play the good guy for him. Yi Sun awkwardly froze in place, not understanding why Fan Jing had such a strong reaction. Watching the tension between the two, Wu Yan apologized again and promised that he would compensate Fan Jing. Seeing that he was still acting, Fan Jing realized that he was trying to make him see who Yi Sun cared more about. Clearly, he had succeeded. Thinking this, Fan Jing indifferently told Wu Yan that he couldn't make up for the pendant and pushed past Yi Sun towards the door. Since the person he trusted most wasn't on his side, why should he stay? Seeing him about to leave, Yi Sun hurried to hold him back but heard Wu Yan groan behind him. He quickly turned back asking if he was in pain. Taking advantage of the situation, Wu Yan asked Yi Sun if he could take him to get treated. Just because of this delay, when Yi Sun looked back again, Fan Jing had already walked out the door. Thinking the wound was more serious, he pulled up Wu Yan, intending to treat it again. Meanwhile, Fan Jing, who had just stepped outside, didn't understand why he felt so weak, choosing to flee time and again because he couldn't face Yuzhuo. As he hung his head in sorrow and wept, he unexpectedly ran into someone. At that moment, Zhong Siyuan also saw that Fan Jing was in tears. Quickly, he grabbed Fan Jing's shoulders, asking what was wrong. After hearing the whole story, Zhong Siyuan took Fan Jing to repair the pendant. However, the shop owner, seeing the severe crack, told them it was a difficult task. Hearing this, Fan Jing was disheartened. It seemed there was no solution. Seeing his upset, Zhong Siyuan began to praise the shop owner's top-notch skills, believing the crack was a minor issue for the shopkeeper. Considering Zhong Siyuan's past care during the documentary shooting, the shop owner felt compelled to take on the job. Fan Jing was surprised the owner agreed to help, he thought he was at a dead end. Unexpectedly, Zhong Siyuan's intervention turned despair into hope. Hearing the shop owner asked him to leave the pendant for repair and would notify him when it was fixed, Fan Jing quickly thanked him, expressing the pendant's importance to him. On their way back, Fan Jing apologized to Zhong Siyuan for taking up his rest time. However, the latter reassured him not to worry, suggesting they treat the outing as a relaxation. It was then Fan Jing realized the true nature of Zhong Siyuan. To think he has such a considerate side. He doesn't know what the real Yuzhuo is like, why can he be tender and affectionate one moment and abandon him the next? He also doesn't know what he's doing right now, whether he's with Wu Yan or not. Just as Fan Jing was lost in his thoughts, Zhong Siyuan suddenly spoke up, asking if he was dating Yuzhuo. It was then Fan Jing remembered that Zhong Siyuan is Yuzhuo's uncle, who might have opinions about their relationship. Just as he hesitated whether to tell the truth, Zhong Siyuan told him that Yuzhuo can sometimes be unreliable and asked him to be more patient. Hearing this, Fan Jing realized that the other party saw that he was troubled by these matters and was specifically comforting him. He told Fan Jing that Yuzhuo is the way he is because of his family background, but he has improved a lot now. Hearing him mention Yuzhuo's past, Fan Jing's curiosity was piqued. However, Zhong Siyuan did not continue but instead told him to perform well in the important scenes in the next 2 days, and then he would tell him more. Fan Jing didn't expect Zhong Siyuan to be so good at keeping people in suspense. Hearing this, the other person laughed and said that there's no such thing as a free lunch. After getting off the car, Fan Jing knew he owed a lot to Zhong Siyuan for today and expressed his gratitude for his hard work. Thinking that the other was more approachable than he imagined, Fan Jing smiled and said he would invite him for a meal next time. Just as he finished speaking, Yuzhuo asked if they were going to eat and if he could join. Fan Jing didn't expect to run into him here and was momentarily stunned, while Yuzhuo jokingly asked Zhong Siyuan where he had taken Fan Jing so late at night. Watching him come over to chat nonchalantly, Fan Jing couldn't understand why he acted as if nothing had happened. With that thought, he directly bypassed Yuzhuo and headed for the door. Seeing that he was just laughing and talking with Zhong Siyuan, but now avoiding himself at all costs. Yi Xiuxiao quickly grabbed him, angrily questioning why he was leaving without even a greeting, and told him that he had been waiting for him to come back. Hearing this, Fan Jing indifferently stated that he didn't ask him to wait. Seeing Yi Xiuxiao talking nonsense, Zhong Siyuan quickly revealed his whereabouts and said that the pendant was a protective talisman left to him by Fan Jing's mother. After explaining, Zhong Siyuan told them that they would be busy tomorrow and suggested they rest early if they were tired. However, Yi Xiuxiao missed the point and questioned when the two became so close. Then he turned his head and told Zhong Siyuan that Fan Jing was not only not tired but also wanted to do something else with him. After saying that, he caressed Fan Jing's face with his hand, while he was puzzled, and kissed his lips in front of Zhong Siyuan. Quickly, Fan Jing, who came to his senses, pushed him away forcefully. Wiping the corner of his mouth, he questioned what he was doing. Fan Jing looked at Yi Xiuxiao angrily, his voice trembling as he asked him why he was always so inconsiderate. Without waiting for an answer, he pushed past him and left without looking back. Upon seeing this, Zhong Siyuan expressed that he did not want to comment too much on Yi Xiuxiao's past relationships, then quickly changed the topic by asking him if he was serious about Fan Jing this time. Watching Zhong Siyuan bossing around like a father, Yi Xiuxiao was extremely annoyed. He directly told him that he was no longer a child and did not need to listen to Zhong Siyuan's lectures, then turned to leave. Seeing that Yi Xiuxiao didn't take it seriously, Zhong Siyuan warned him that continuing this way would eventually lead to both sides getting hurt. Yi Xiuxiao ignored him and quickly followed the departing Fan Jing. He questioned Fan Jing about what was wrong and why he had been giving him the cold shoulder from the morning on the set until now. Seeing this, Fan Jing was speechlessly exasperated. How could he come asking as if he had amnesia? However, he didn't want to deal with it and directly shrugged off Yi Xiuxiao's hand. Seeing that Fan Jing wanted to leave, Yi Xiuxiao became anxious. He quickly positioned him properly and asked what he meant, wondering why they couldn't just talk it out. Seeing that he still didn't understand where the problem lay, Fan Jing coldly told him he had nothing to say and asked him to go back to Wu Yan. Hearing this, Yi Xiuxiao sarcastically said that he indeed should go to Wu Yan, so he could enjoy pleasant conversations with Zhong Siyuan. Seeing his sarcastic tone, Fan Jing asked him what he meant by that. Yi Xiuxiao felt he was right and didn't know when the two of them had become familiar enough to go out together late at night. Hearing him harp on this, Fan Jing angrily pushed him away and emphasized that Zhong Siyuan was only kindly helping him repair the jade pendant. Yi Xiuxiao knew that Fan Jing wouldn't deceive him. It seems that the two only went out by chance. He really misunderstood. Thinking of this, Yi Xiuxiao quickly hugged Fan Jing, assertively claiming Fan Jing as his own and warning him not to get so close to others again. Hearing this, Fan Jing questioned him on how he could just walk in and stand by Wu Yan's side to blame him. Was that really okay? Yi Xiuxiao saw that Fan Jing was also trying to educate him. He felt that even if there was something between him and Wu Yan, it wasn't Fan Jing's place to point fingers, but to stabilize the situation. Yi Xiuxiao still caught him forcefully, admitted his misunderstanding, and actively apologized. Then, leaning close to Fan Jing's ear, he coquettishly pleaded for Fan Jing not to be angry with him anymore. However, what Fan Jing cared about was not the misunderstanding, but that Yi Xiuxiao chose to believe Wu Yan first, valuing Wu Yan more. Yi Xiuxiao hurriedly explained that he wasn't biased towards Wu Yan, but the situation at that time would lead anyone to misunderstand. However, the next moment, he lectured Fan Jing that a damaged jade pendant could be repaired and there was no need to lash out at Wu Yan. After all, it wasn't intentional. Seeing Yi Xiuxiao still defending Wu Yan, Fan Jing repeatedly questioned him, asking if in his eyes, Wu Yan's deliberate evocation of those memories wasn't intentional, flaunting his close relationship in front of him wasn't intentional, and even sabotaging their dates multiple times wasn't intentional. Everything he did was right, and only he himself was the bad one. After a soul-searching question, he fiercely pushed away Yi Xiuxiao's hand. He sternly told the other person it was over, there was nothing left to discuss. Then he walked past them, never looking back. Watching Fan Jing's retreating figure, Yi Xiuxiao punched the railing. He had never gone to such lengths to coax someone before. I have never put so much effort into coaxing anyone before, and yet he didn't appreciate it. When Zhong Siyuan asked me if I was serious about Fan Jing, I suddenly didn't know what my feelings for Fan Jing were. However, the next second, I shook my head, thinking that there was no need to dwell on it. After all, I wasn't going to hang myself on this one tree. For the next 3 days, Yi Xiuxiao and Fan Jing did not contact each other again. Looking at the empty phone, Fan Jing knew that Yi Xiuxiao, just like last time, chose to go silent when upset. Zhong Siyuan noticed his distracted state and reminded him to stay focused. He quickly smiled and apologized, saying that he would adjust. Fan Jing felt that he didn't understand Yi Xiuxiao well enough to comprehend his unpredictability, and didn't know how to handle the current predicament. Seeing the person in front of him pretending to be strong, Zhong Siyuan looked worried. In the break room, Fan Jing imagined that if he hadn't walked away in anger at that time, would the situation be different now? Originally, he thought Yi Yuxiao would come after him to explain, but it seemed like he tacitly admitted to Fan Jing's accusations. Fan Jing didn't know if their relationship would end if they couldn't talk this out. Just as he was lost in thought, the phone rang. He quickly got up and took out his phone. It really was Yi Yuxiao calling. However, he didn't know what tone he should use to greet him. Before Fan Jing could say anything, the caller told him to go to the bar, mentioning that Yi Yuxiao was drunk and wanted to see him. It turns out that Yi Yuxiao was drunk, but Fan Jing didn't know why he didn't call Wu Yan first. At this moment, the person on the phone had already given the address, so Fan Jing could only get up and promise to arrive as soon as possible. The scene shifts to Fan Jing just arriving at the bar. As soon as Yi Yuxiao's friends saw him, they called him over, remembering that Yi Yuxiao, in his drunken state, mistook his bag for Fan Jing. The friend frankly said that it was a good thing he came, otherwise, they would have been exhausted. Looking at Yi Yuxiao sitting quietly on the side, Fan Jing found him rather peaceful. The friend broke down and said that he only bullies certain people. Hearing this, Fan Jing held Yi Yuxiao's face and told him to wake up and not sleep in the bar. However, at this moment, Yi Yuxiao just looked at him and laughed foolishly. Seeing Yi Yuxiao like this, Fan Jing didn't know what to say. At that moment, Yi Yuxiao suddenly lunged and hugged him. Leaning on Fan Jing's shoulder, he asked him to take him home. Seeing all this, the friend felt like his eyes were deceiving him. He never expected Yi Yuxiao to have such a mushy side. However, at this moment, the drunken Yi Yuxiao thought he was dreaming and saw Fan Jing picking him up. Back home, as Fan Jing washed clothes, he wondered why Yi Yuxiao, who could hold his liquor well, got so drunk. Suddenly, he thought maybe Yi Yuxiao had drunk too much because he quarreled with his bag and was worried about making up. Just then, Yi Yuxiao on the bed opened his eyes. But he found himself at Fan Jing's house and couldn't understand why he kept having hallucinations about him. Since that was the case, why not just imagine Fan Jing coming out? Thinking this, he immediately took action. With his command, Fan Jing pushed the door open and entered. Unaware of the situation, Fan Jing sat directly on the bed, watching Yi Yuxiao act out. However, Yi Yuxiao truly believed he had successfully conjured him up. Seeing that he thought he was a hallucination, Fan Jing grabbed his hand and touched his own face, telling him it wasn't a hallucination. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao pinched his own face to see if it would hurt, but he ended up pinching Fan Jing's face instead. Rubbing his pinched red face, Fan Jing frustratingly realized that with Yi Yuxiao this drunk, there was no way they could discuss earlier matters. While thinking this, the person beside him grabbed his sleeve. Seeing Fan Jing looking at him confusedly, Yi Yuxiao pitifully asked him why he was so heartless, not coming to find him for 3 days. Hearing Yi Yuxiao pitifully ask why he hadn't come to find him for 3 days, Fan Jing couldn't stay angry anymore. After all, what was there to argue about with a drunk? He could only smile, rub the other's head, and tell him that he was here to find him now. Upon hearing this, Yi Yuxiao leaned in and hugged his arm, saying he hated being alone and begged him not to abandon him. At this moment, Fan Jing also recalled Zhong Siyuan's words, knowing that Yi Yuxiao had hardly received any parental love. Thinking of this, he bowed his head and told him he wouldn't abandon him. Looking at the person in front of him, Fan Jing really wished time could stop at this moment. However, the next second, Yi Yuxiao started sniffing around him. Then he shook him vigorously, questioning why he smelled like alcohol. Fan Jing just wanted to throw him away. After the commotion, Fan Jing turned on the bathroom faucet, started helping Yi Yuxiao bathe, and told him to speak up if the water temperature wasn't right. Next, he put some body wash in his hand and asked Yi Yuxiao to raise his arm. The latter obediently complied. While applying the body wash on Yi Yuxiao, Fan Jing watched him and thought he looked really well behaved like this. Suddenly, Fan Jing felt playful and asked Yi Yuxiao to lift his chin. Seeing him obediently raise his head, Fan Jing playfully scratched his chin like he was petting a cat. He suddenly realized that apart from arguing, being together was actually quite enjoyable. It was Yi Yuxiao who made him experience the beauty of emotions. Thinking of this, Fan Jing hugged Yi Yuxiao and warned him that if he wanted to be with him properly, he must not approach Wu Yan again. Hearing this, Yi Yuxiao blushed and agreed repeatedly. Fan Jing then asked if he would still remember this promise when he woke up in the morning and received the same affirmative reply. Fan Jing knew that even if Yi Yuxiao promised, he couldn't control Wu Yan. If Wu Yan sought help, he wasn't sure if Yi Yuxiao would refuse. The scene shifts. The next day, Yi Yuxiao woke up with a headache and found himself at Fan Jing's house, unable to remember what happened last night. At this moment, he saw the note on the bedside table. It turned out that Fan Jing was reminding him to take hangover medicine after waking up. At this point, an idea exploded in his mind. Could it be that he wasn't dreaming? Was it really Fan Jing who picked him up? But what happened afterward he couldn't remember. Just thinking about his state last night, he didn't dare imagine how those people would mock him over this. How could those people mock themselves? Looking at the neatly made bed beside him, he realized he hadn't seen Fan Jing. He went out to look for him and found that Fan Jing had given up his bed for him and was sleeping on the couch. Sitting next to him, he wondered if Fan Jing was still angry for taking him home but not sleeping with him. For some reason, seeing him calmed his restlessness. Just as he was considering whether to take the initiative to coax Fan Jing before he got bored, Fan Jing woke up. Seeing Yuzhuo sitting in front of him, he was startled. Seeing Fan Jing stunned, Yuzhuo could only greet him awkwardly. As Fan Jing was about to turn his face, Yuzhuo quickly kissed his forehead, hoping for his forgiveness. However, Fan Jing pushed him away and asked him to answer a question first. Before Yuzhuo could respond, he heard Fan Jing ask if he liked Wu Yan. Yuzhuo was confused as to why Fan Jing would think that. However, Fan Jing told him it wasn't his imagination, but too many things made him feel that way. He knew Yuzhuo didn't understand his own resistance towards Wu Yan, but love is inherently selfish. He couldn't tolerate his feelings being tainted. After saying that, he seriously asked Yuzhuo again whether he really liked Wu Yan. Seeing how cute Fan Jing was even when jealous, Yuzhuo joked about how long-lasting his jealousy was. However, Fan Jing warned him not to evade the question, as he really needed an answer. Yuzhuo fell silent for a moment, seeing his hesitation. Fan Jing clenched his fists, guessing that Yuzhuo did not know the answer. He was even more unsure whether he would believe it if the other party denied it, and whether they could return to how things were before without any issues. Realizing that Fan Jing really wanted to know the answer, Yuzhuo admitted that Wu Yan was someone he had liked during high school. Then he told Fan Jing that during the most rebellious and difficult days when his family faced a crisis, it was Wu Yan who had always been by his side. At this moment, Fan Jing finally understood why Yuzhuo always stood by Wu Yan first. It seemed that for him, Wu Yan indeed held such important and irreplaceable memories. Seeing Fan Jing spacing out, Yuzhuo quickly poked him and asked what he was thinking. He then assured him that he was not in a relationship with Wu Yan and that they were really just friends now. Hearing his assurance, Fan Jing questioned why he had initially lied about just being old classmates with Wu Yan with no special relationship. Yuzhuo hugged him and explained that it was because he feared a misunderstanding, as he was so difficult to appease. He wondered what would happen if Fan Jing got angry about old matters. After listening, Fan Jing told him that the foundation of a relationship is mutual trust and that no matter how many reasons there are, one should not hide or deceive. Yuzhuo quickly admitted his mistake and said that the past is the past, and what's more important is the present. He also truly likes him. Then, he asked Fan Jing to look into his eyes, saying pitifully that if he still didn't believe him, the only option would be to cut out his heart to show him. But thinking of Wu Yan's boasting and their past that he couldn't be part of, Fan Jing didn't know how to act as if nothing happened. Seeing him hesitate, Yuzhuo told him it's not so complicated, just trust his own feelings. With a mischievous smile, he said if he had forgotten, he could make him remember again. Saying this, he picked him up and headed toward the bedroom. Fan Jing quickly said he was not in the mood for anything else, but Yuzhuo didn't listen and laid him on the bed, telling him to just go with the flow and leave everything to him. As he spoke, he slipped his hand under Fan Jing's clothes. The Fan Jing beneath him felt Yuzhuo's wild and almost soul-searing desire for dominance. He looked deeply at the person who always managed to ignite an unparalleled passion in him, the person he could not resist being led by. Yuzhuo also caressed Fan Jing's face. While expressing how he missed his body and every inch of his skin, Fan Jing knew that the other wanted to prove that his eyes held only him exactly what he needed the most. At that moment, Yuzhuo leaned in close to his ear, seeking his forgiveness and asked if he would always indulge him. Hearing this, Fan Jing quickly pushed him away. Expressing forgiveness this time, but knowing their relationship can endure erosion, she asks him to promise not to favor Wu Yan or deceive her again. When he suggests she stay for him alone, Yuzhuo is not angry but finds the idea interesting. But he still silences Fan Jing's mouth, telling him it's the first time someone has asked him to make such a promise at this moment. Then, changing the topic, he expresses his willingness to comply because of his deep affection for Fan Jing. After saying this, he clasps the other's hand above, promising to agree to whatever he is asked. Fan Jing, blushing, teases him for speaking so nicely. Hearing this, Yuzhuo presses down, wanting him to know right then that he is not just talk. The two embrace tightly. This time, Fan Jing chooses to trust Yuzhuo again, perhaps removing any barriers between them. After some time, Fan Jing finishes filming for Ling Huchuan. Hoping that the turmoil here remains in the past, he prepares to leave by car when Wu Yan calls out to him. First, apologizing for causing the argument between him and Yuzhuo, then asking if they've reconciled. Fan Jing casually mentions they are fine, as their relationship can withstand any test. Hearing this, Wu Yan freezes, then comments on Yi Xiao's skill at charming people, as adept as ever. Seeing Fan Jing doesn't catch his meaning, Wu Yan continues, saying Yi Xiao used to woo him with various methods to make him happy. Fan Jing counters, having heard that he and Yi Xiao were never actually together. Wu Yan thought he had heard something from Yi Xiao's friends and hurriedly asked Fan Jing who had told him these things. Hearing Fan Jing say there were no secrets between him and Yi Xiao, Wu Yan pointed out that he only thought he understood Yi Xiao. Wu Yan pointed out that he only thought he understood Yi Xiu and Xiao. Seeing him still causing trouble, Fan Jing warned him that their relationship was none of his business. Wu Yan said he had been with Yi Xiu and Xiao for 3 years and knew that he did not truly treasure things easily obtained. Seeing Wu Yan so certain made Fan Jing very uncomfortable. But looking down at the flowers in his arms, he knew he shouldn't let rumors doubt Yi Xiu and Xiao, especially with the Starlight Awards ceremony half a month away. As soon as Fan Jing appeared, he caused a stir at the scene, partly because his recent role in the hit IP Spirit Fox earned him a nomination for Most Notable New Actor, which made Zhong Siyuan proud. At that moment, Fan Jing saw him and promptly greeted him. Seeing the approaching person, Zhong Siyuan thought he looked good. Then Yi Xiu and Xiao appeared and questioned Fan Jing about whispering with others behind his back. Yi then walked up to them, thanked Zhong Siyuan for his care, and Fan Jing quickly warned him to be careful of being photographed. After saying that, he pushed him away and told Zhong Siyuan that Yi was not usually like this. Yet Yi Xiu and Xiao warned them not to speak ill of him. After the ceremony started, Yi Xiu and Xiao asked if he had prepared an acceptance speech, but Fan Jing was not sure about winning. Seeing him so humble, Yi Xiu and Xiao told him he would definitely win because he was excellent, though Fan Jing was less optimistic, knowing every actor there was eager for recognition. Thinking back on how he was repeatedly criticized by his former agents since entering the entertainment industry, telling himself that without adaptability, he couldn't secure resources. He even doubted whether he could adapt to the survival rules here, but stubbornly wanted to prove that he made the right choice. As he was lost in his thoughts, the host on stage had already begun to announce the list for the Most Promising New Actor award. The next moment, Fan Jing heard his own name. It turns out that as long as you desperately move forward, you can reach the light ahead. His persistence had finally received divine favor. Fan Jing stood on the stage, thanking everyone for their recognition and promised to continue with their support. He knew that the career he loved was responding to him. The person he loved was also supporting him from behind. He happily held the trophy, finally able to confidently say that he had everything he longed for. After stepping off the stage, Fan Jing pushed the door and walked out. Everyone he met congratulated him. Wu Yan was also hiding behind the door. However, Fan Jing was only looking for Yi Xiao and did not notice the person hiding behind the door. At this moment, he suddenly saw Yi Xiao standing with a man. Fan Jing found out that the man was the friend Yi Xiao was with at the bar that day. It turns out he was also in the film industry. Fan Jing heard him telling Yi Xiao that he had met Wu Yan and praised Wu Yan's temperament as being very different from before. He then mentioned that Wu Yan had been inquiring about his love life. Hearing this, Yi Xiao asked what he said to Wu Yan. However, the man said that he only told Wu Yan that Yi Xiao was pursuing someone else lately because of a bet. Hiding aside, Fan Jing was shocked. He didn't understand what they were talking about, nor did he know what they meant by the bet. Hearing what Zhang Yu said, Yi Xiao warned him not to blurt out everything nonsensically. Fan Jing was also present, yet Zhang Yu teased him, asking if he was afraid that Fan Jing would find out, and commented that he finally remembered this time. Then, he asked him if he was tired of playing and when he would find his next target. Actually, if Zhang Yu hadn't mentioned it, Yi Xiao would have almost forgotten about the bet. However, to avoid being mocked, he said that he hadn't found an interesting target yet and decided to just continue as it was. Unexpectedly, all of this was overheard by Fan Jing, who was hiding outside. He didn't understand the meaning of their conversation just now. Could it be that Yi Xiao was with him just because of a bet? Were the past few months of their relationship all based on his lies? At that moment, the flowers and the trophy he held fell to the ground. The sound of the falling items startled the two people inside. Seeing the scattered flowers and the broken trophy on the ground, Yi Xiao knew that Fan Jing was outside. He hurried out to explain that things were not as Fan Jing imagined. However, Fan Jing just looked up, disappointed, only wanting to know if the bet was really true. Yi Xiao could only guiltily tell him that Zhang Yu always liked to exaggerate. He tried to evade Fan Jing's question, but the latter didn't want to hear any of it. He asked him not to beat around the bush, and to just say yes or no. Hearing this, Yi Xiao really didn't know how to respond. Seeing him like this, Fan Jing deeply knew. This is probably what Wu Yan wants himself to know. He doesn't want to say anything anymore, pushing Yi Xiao forward, looking at Fan Jing's lonely figure. Yi Xiao doesn't know whether he should chase after him or not. Just then, a CEO patted his shoulder, saying that he had been looking for him to have a good talk, telling him that he has a good project in hand and wanted to discuss a collaboration, asking if he was interested. But Yi Shuxiao's mind is in turmoil now. He knows that if he lets Fan Jing leave like this, he will never come back to him. Thinking this, he turns around and tells the CEO that he doesn't have time to listen to this now. Then he strides towards Fan Jing. Zhang Yu had to quickly appease the CEO, telling him that Yi Shuxiao was in a bad mood today. Watching Yi Shuxiao's hurried figure, Zhang Yu knows he's in trouble and will definitely be scolded by Yi Shuxiao. Fan Jing stops a car, just about to open the door and get in, when Yi Shuxiao arrives. He grabs Fan Jing's hand, asking him not to go, pleading for him to listen to what he has to say. He tells Fan Jing that things are not as he imagines and hopes he will give him a chance to explain. He then explains that those were just jokes with friends, not meant to hurt him, and says that being with him is sincere. However, Fan Jing doesn't want to listen to any of it. After Yi Shuxiao finishes speaking, he just pushes away his hand, asking if they can end it now. Knowing that Fan Jing won't listen to his explanation, Yi Shuxiao doesn't know what to do for a moment. He ponders briefly. He thought for a moment and said loudly that Ziba would definitely compensate him, and would fight for better resources for him, asking him not to refuse to communicate with himself. But unexpectedly, these words completely enraged Fan Jing. So this was how he viewed their relationship? How was this different from a transaction? He clenched his fists tightly. So, this affection was just his own wishful thinking after all. He felt unsteady, unable to comprehend why the man he had shared a bed with until yesterday could become so unfamiliar and frightening. Seeing the other party trying to reach out and touch him, he forcefully brushed the hand away and warned him not to touch him again. Then he loudly accused the other of being selfish and ruthless, utterly unworthy of saying he liked him. Fan Jing questioned Yi Yuxiao, asking if getting close to him was because of a bet, if he hadn't had enough fun, so he kept stringing him along, merely treating him as a tool to satisfy his desire to conquer. He believed that from the beginning to the end, Yi Yuxiao wanted him for himself. Was there ever even a moment that was sincere? Fan Jing, grabbing Yi Yuxiao's collar and with tears, told him that he had never liked someone so much before him. He had thought the other felt the same, but now it seemed he was terribly mistaken. After saying this, he released Yi Yuxiao's collar and looked at him with tears. Painfully, he told the other that their relationship was over now. When he got home, Fan Jing began to pack up Yi Yuxiao's things, looking at the coat the other had left at his place from the last overnight stay, and the set of daily necessities he had specially prepared to make it convenient for him to come over any time. It was then that Fan Jing realized that this home was no longer the way it used to be when he was alone. If throwing away things with traces of the other person could erase them from one's heart, after cleaning up everything, he knew life had to go on. He no longer had time to be depressed over a failed relationship. Just then, the doorbell rang. Seeing it was Yi Shuxiao, he instinctively chose to close the door. Seeing this, the other party quickly stuffed his hand through the door crack, pleading for him not to close the door yet, and said if he doesn't let him in, he would keep ringing the doorbell. Knowing Fan Jing didn't want to disturb the neighbors, indeed, upon hearing Yi Shuxiao say this, Fan Jing let go of the door. Then he turned and entered the house, telling Yi Shuxiao to say whatever he had to say all at once. He didn't want to be disturbed by him again. However, Yi Shuxiao told him he brought a gift for him. Saying so, he took out a disc from the bag, asking if he remembered. It was a movie disc he had always wanted. Fan Jing had said that the director of this movie was his favorite, but unfortunately, the Blu-ray disc was out of print and he hadn't been able to buy it. At that time, Yi Su promised to help him find it and watch it together. However, Fan Jing mocked him for always falling asleep during art films. Yi Shuxiao cheesily said he just wanted to do everything together with him. Yi Shuxiao told him he had never forgotten what he said, so he asked many friends to finally get it, hoping he could forgive him. But Fan Jing didn't want to hear any of it. He violently grabbed the disc, questioning if the other had had enough. He didn't know how the other had the audacity to bring up the past and naively think a disc could earn forgiveness. Wondering if he felt triumphant seeing him take the bait. Fan Jing had had enough of this game. He had already lost too much dignity in their relationship. How could he continue to be the butt of the joke? With that thought, Fan Jing told the other party that he didn't need the DVDs, took the box away, and warned him not to appear at his house again. Yi Xiao was surprised that Fan Jing wanted to get rid of him this way and had already packed everything up so quickly. He admitted he was wrong before, but he had apologized to Fan Jing more than once. What more did he want? Seeing this, he couldn't bear it anymore. Fan Jing asked him if it was hard to humble himself for a prey and told him not to force himself. Yi Xiao had never gone to such lengths for anyone else, but the other party was still pressing him. Unable to bear it anymore, he stepped on the DVD and pointed at the things Fan Jing had packed, telling him to deal with it himself. He stated that he had no interest in things that had lost their value. After saying that, he closed the door with a bang and left, leaving Fan Jing stunned and alone, clenching his fists. Furious, he clenched his teeth and kicked over the box. He didn't know to what extent Yuzhuo would continue to play him. After venting, Fan Jing knelt on the ground in despair. He had never thought that one day he would become such a weak and incompetent person. The shards on the ground cut his hand. He couldn't undo everything, nor could he erase the fact that he liked the other person so much. At night, because he couldn't get through to Fan Jing's phone, the assistant anxiously came to the door and opened it. He saw Fan Jing quietly kneeling on the ground alone. The assistant took Fan Jing's injured hand and asked if he did it himself. He thought Fan Jing was so listless because of the news on the internet. But first, we need to find a medical kit because the wound looks pretty serious. Hearing the concern in his assistant's voice, Fan Jing asked him what the news was online. Seeing that he was unaware, the assistant told him to prepare himself mentally, then revealed that someone had spread a maliciously edited video online, defaming Fan Jing and making a big fuss over it. Hearing this, Fan Jing was so shocked that he couldn't speak. Seeing him like this, the assistant quickly comforted him, saying the company was handling it and everything would be smoothed over soon, advising him not to worry too much. Meanwhile, Wu Yan sat in front of his computer, satisfied with his own creation. He hadn't intended to take things this far, but he really disliked it when others took his things. Fan Jing arrived at the company, and his assistant advised him to stay offline for a few days. He knew that surely some competitor had bought a smear piece to take advantage of the situation. While they were talking, Sister Yu greeted them nearby, and upon seeing her, Fan Jing stopped. He asked her if there was still a photo shoot scheduled for this afternoon. Hearing this, Sister Yu could only awkwardly tell him that the brand wanted to assess the direction of public opinion, so the shoot was put on hold for now. She added that she would inform him if there were any new developments, then hurriedly walked away. Fan Jing realized that wherever he went, people were whispering and gossiping behind his back, and his assistant looked at him with concern. Thinking that this wasn't the first time he had faced such slander and rumors, Fan Jing told himself he couldn't show weakness. Just then, his phone in his pocket rang. He took it out. It was a call from his dad. It was Dad calling. As soon as he answered, Dad questioned what he was up to and said many people came to the shop asking about him, worrying it might affect his business. Fan Jing turned around and told his assistant to go in first. The other person told him to hurry because the meeting was about to start. In the meeting room, Yuzhuo instructed the PR department to immediately prepare a clarifying article and ensure it was reasonable and empathetic. To reverse public opinion, when the time was right, Fan Jing's personal clarification and a press conference should follow. Everyone agreed with this arrangement. Then he instructed his assistant to closely monitor accounts that might take advantage of the situation and to find the artists who provided the scandalous video testimony. Despite making all these arrangements, he still looked in Fan Jing's direction with concern, wondering what happened to his hand. It was fine when they met yesterday. Even the assistant was surprised that Yuzhuo would oversee the situation personally. He appeared decisive, giving everyone a sense of reassurance. At that moment, after arranging everything, Yuzhuo announced the meeting was over and urged everyone to take action. Just as he walked out of the meeting room, he heard Fan Jing explaining to his dad that the company was handling his issues and it wouldn't affect him. But Dad didn't want to hear any of this and sarcastically said he hadn't hidden his unsavory matters well, getting discovered by others. Seeing his dad mock him like this, Fan Jing felt so upset he didn't know what to say. His dad actually believed he did those things. Yuzhuo didn't understand why he always pretended to be indifferent. If he just yielded, Yuzhuo could protect him. Yuzhuo called out to Fan Jing from behind. He grabbed his hand and asked how he got injured. Fan Jing quickly pulled his hand back and turned away, telling him he was fine. Seeing him about to leave again, Yuzhuo hurriedly admitted that he had been too impulsive yesterday and should have talked things through with him. He then mentioned the current online turmoil and suggested that Fan Jing take a few days off at home until the situation calmed down. Upon hearing this, Fan Jing simply responded indifferently to signify his agreement with the arrangement. Seeing that he wouldn't even spare her another word, Yuzhuo bit her lip in frustration. She pinned Fan Jing against the wall, demanding why he couldn't say a few more words and why he kept everyone at such a distance. But he pushed her away, indicating he had nothing more to say to her. Seeing Fan Jing like this, Yuzhuo realized he had reverted to his impenetrable self, perhaps even worse. Yet, she still told him that no matter how much he tried to escape, their relationship couldn't be erased since he was still an artist under her company. Yuzhuo just wanted to prove there was still something between her and Fan Jing. However, he told her that unless it was work-related, he didn't want to see her. With that, Fan Jing walked away, and Yuzhuo, desperate, wanted to call after him. Just as she was about to chase after him, her assistant stopped her, mentioning there were several urgent documents that needed her signature. Fan Jing quickly left, with the company's people still gossiping behind him. He felt that perhaps this was another disaster sent by fate to punish his naive trust, to make him realize that no one in this world would stand by his side. Suddenly, the sound of a car horn interrupted his thoughts. It was Zhong Siyuan, reminding him it was best not to go home now as there might be reporters lurking around. Caught off guard by this sudden show of concern, Fan Jing didn't know what to say. Zhong Siyuan understood, comforted him with it's okay, and urged him to get in the car. In the car, Zhong Siyuan explained that he saw someone suspicious outside the company and didn't know their intentions, so he let Fan Jing get in the car. After hearing this, Fan Jing quickly thanked him, and Zhong Siyuan suggested he shouldn't go home for safety reasons. Then he asked if he lived with Yuzhuo. Hearing this, Fan Jing paused for a moment and told him that they had broken up. Zhong Siyuan thought about Yuzhuo's personality and felt it was normal for them to part ways. He didn't ask further but changed the topic, telling Fan Jing that he also had some responsibility in this situation and had already contacted the actor to testify. Fan Jing thanked him for his efforts. Noticing Fan Jing didn't look well, Zhong Siyuan asked if he was feeling unwell and guessed it might be a stomach issue from not eating on time. Hearing Zhong Siyuan's offer to take him to the hospital, Fan Jing quickly refused, saying it was an old problem that would ease slowly. The other person didn't insist further but told Fan Jing that there was a friend's guesthouse nearby where he could rest. After arriving at the guesthouse, Fan Jing rested on the bed while Zhong Siyuan sat beside him handling work. When Fan Jing woke up, he lay quietly on the bed in a daze. Seeing this, Zhong Siyuan told him he could take the medicine when the water cooled down and mentioned that he had asked the landlady to make some porridge, which would be brought over soon. He then advised Fan Jing that although he was excellent, an actor who didn't take care of his health wouldn't go far. Hearing this, Fan Jing had no reaction. Zhong Siyuan suddenly wondered if he had been too harsh, considering Fan Jing had been through a tough time and wasn't in the mood to eat. Suddenly, the silent Fan Jing started to slap his own face, knowing that Zhong Siyuan was right. Resigning to mediocrity like this is exactly what the villains want. Seeing him bounce back so quickly, Zhong Siyuan felt his resilience had exceeded his expectations. Then he closed his laptop. He told Fan Jing that whether it's positive or negative, the heat of the topic will eventually pass. Only true ability lasts forever. Hearing this, Fan Jing also understood that as an actor, the most important thing is to have reliable works to depend on. But trying to gain opportunities in the entertainment industry on one's own is easier said than done, especially now that he's been pushed into a pit. How to resist the tremendous obstacles to find a glimmer of hope? At this moment, Zhong Siyuan suddenly mentioned that he has a role in his next play that suits him and asked if he would like to try it. For Fan Jing, these words were like hands pulling him out of the water, saving him from dire straits. Seeing Fan Jing staring at him, Zhong Siyuan felt somewhat uneasy. Then, Fan Jing asked if he was really sure about taking such a risk, choosing to collaborate during his most controversial time. But Zhong Siyuan asked him not to overthink it as he felt the role suited him. If he wasn't in good condition, they would replace him, saying this as he handed over the medicine. Handing him the medicine, Fan Jing had never met someone like this, who appeared when he was most helpless, not only easing his stress but also caring for his emotions. Hearing the other person ask if he wanted some sugar, Fan Jing speechlessly indicated he wasn't a child, then swallowed the medicine. But the next second, a piece of sugar appeared in Zhong Siyuan's palm. While handing it to him, he smiled and told him it doesn't hurt to be a child sometimes. Accepting the candy, Fan Jing knew that what the other person gave him was more than just a piece of sugar and a job opportunity. After understanding this, he firmly told the other person that he would adjust his condition as soon as possible and would not let him down. Seeing this, Zhong Siyuan reassuringly expressed his belief in him. 3 days later, Fan Jing's assistant was called to the office by Yuzhuo. As soon as he entered, Yuzhuo interrogated him about where Fan Jing was staying these days since it was inconvenient for him to go home, and why, as his assistant, he didn't report it in time. Frightened, the assistant apologized profusely and took out his phone to contact him immediately. However, Yuzhuo couldn't wait and stood up, snatching the phone from his hand. Realizing he was now relying on others to contact Fan Jing seemed ridiculous to him, but he still wanted to know his situation. However, when the phone connected, he heard his own uncle's voice on the other end, wondering why he was with Fan Jing. Yuzhuo asked Zhong Siyuan why he answered Fan Jing's call. Seeing the person asleep next to him, Zhong Siyuan closed the door. He told him that he answered the call himself because he was afraid of waking Fan Jing. However, Yuzhuo wasn't asking about that, he wanted to know why Zhong Siyuan always secretly got involved with Fan Jing. You're a top director, what kind of actors don't you have? Why must you interfere with what's mine? Hearing this, Zhong Siyuan warned him to watch his words and reminded him that actors are not commodities. Moreover, Fan Jing was no longer his. He then reminded him that they had already broken up. Hearing this, Yuzhuo asked him what he meant, wondering if Zhong Siyuan intended to take advantage of the situation. Zhong Siyuan, exasperated, told him that what mattered most to Fan Jing was to salvage his career, and continuing to make a scene would only bring more trouble to Fan Jing. Zhong Siyuan didn't understand why Yuzhuo was being so irrationally persistent about Fan Jing. Given his temperament, he didn't know what he might do. Elsewhere, Yuzhuo instructed his assistant to inform Fan Jing to attend the party tomorrow night. The assistant expressed that Fan Jing didn't like and wouldn't attend such occasions. Before he could finish, Yuzhuo impatiently told him that he had the final say on Fan Jing's schedule. He didn't know if it was Fan Jing who went to find Zhong Siyuan. Thinking about this, he angrily kicked the table next to him and swept all the items off the desk onto the floor. He had always been deliberately avoiding this question. He couldn't bear to think if Fan Jing would leave him and be with someone else. At the party, Yuzhuo was drinking alone on the side when Zhong Siyuan came over and asked him why he wasn't chatting with others and instead was drinking sulkily, which wasn't like him at all. Hearing this, Yuzhuo looked into his cup and asked how he could be more like himself, as he couldn't even remember what he used to be like. But for some reason, every little interaction with Fan Jing became clearer and more vivid in his memories. If time could be reversed, he definitely wouldn't make that bet with others, so they wouldn't have broken up. Just then, he saw Fan Jing walking in. After so many days, he finally saw him, but he seemed to have lost some weight. Yuzhuo hurriedly went over to greet him, but Fan Jing coldly stated that it was his own request to come. How could he not come? Seeing him being so distant, Yuzhuo quickly explained that he just wanted to see him, couldn't get in touch, and wanted to make sure he was okay. Then, he cautiously put his hand on Fan Jing's shoulder, telling him he had good news. However, the other quickly moved aside, not wanting Yuzhuo to touch him. Seeing how Fan Jing was resisting him, Yuzhuo's hand froze in midair. To dissipate the awkwardness, he could only point with his finger, forcibly putting on a smile, asking him to come with him. Then, he recommended Fan Jing to director Jia Ming, hoping Jia Ming would consider him for his new film and emphasized that Fan Jing was his loyal fan. Seeing that Yuzhuo had been looking for him for 2 months, Jia Ming truly admired his perseverance. Only then did Fan Jing find out about this, but Jia Ming was worried that the recent negative news would affect Fan Jing's filming state. Fan Jing admitted that it would have some impact, but as an actor, he would learn from the experience. He then expressed his attitude. Seeing this, Yuzhuo felt that Fan Jing was still the same person he knew. Jia Ming was also moved by his attitude and appreciated his work. Yuzhuo realized that he hadn't cherished Fan Jing before, and wondered if starting now, giving him the best, he could seek his forgiveness. At this moment, Jia Ming told Fan Jing that Zhong Siyuan also wanted to confirm their next collaboration and praised his promising future. At this moment, Mr. Chen, who had drugged Fan Jing previously, saw them and muttered curses. Wu Yan, passing by, heard him clearly. In that instant, an evil thought flashed through Wu Yan's mind. Fan Jing and Jia Ming had a very pleasant conversation, and the other party expressed anticipation for their upcoming exchange. After Jia Ming left, Yuzhuo couldn't wait to ask Fan Jing when he discussed the collaboration with Zhong Siyuan and why he hadn't told him. Fan Jing said he would submit the explanation according to the procedure and mentioned that he wasn't feeling well and would go back first. To meet Yuzhuo, Fan Jing had exhausted all his energy. Such an answer made Yuzhuo even more frustrated. It turned out that their relationship had come down to just business. But he wasn't ready to give up. He grabbed Fan Jing's wrist. He wanted to take him somewhere to talk and get the answers he wanted, no matter what. Just as Fan Jing was about to resist, he held back. He knew that once he refused, he will definitely do something in public because he is sure that you wouldn't dare to break free. Coming to the lounge, Fan Jing told Yuzhuo that he had said it more than once. There was nothing left to talk about between them, but the other person locked the door and continued to ask the previous questions. He also asked if there was anything else besides discussing cooperation. Fan Jing angrily questioned whether he could understand human speech and accused him of having no right to meddle in his affairs. Yuzhuo told him that he could understand his rejection, but he couldn't accept the possibility of him being with someone else. Then he told Fan Jing that he had a bad premonition from the first time he and Zhong Siyuan met, asking if it was because Zhong Siyuan provided resources. He himself could do the same and could offer him the best director in team. Fan Jing couldn't bear it anymore and told him not to think everyone was like him, treating feelings so casually. His words made him extremely angry. He didn't know how he could fall for such a jerk. But Yuzhuo didn't know how to properly treat someone. He wanted Fan Jing to teach him. As long as he said so, he would definitely change. Yuzhuo promised he wouldn't do things Fan Jing didn't like and wouldn't meet with Wu Yan anymore, only asking to return to the past. Hearing this, Fan Jing laughed helplessly. There were so many times he actually hoped Yuzhuo would say these words to him. At that time, he couldn't understand how the other person could be affectionate towards him while favoring Wu Yan at the same time. Now he understood, because he was just a game to him, a source of amusement until he got tired and threw him away. For such a toy, of course, it wasn't worth the other person's sincerity. He had once trusted him so much and had expectations of him, but that was all in the past. Fan Jing told Yuzhuo that whatever he could offer him now, he didn't want it anymore. He walked past him towards the door. Yuzhuo panicked. Fan Jing didn't want any of his belongings. How could he keep him? He couldn't accept that their relationship would end like this. Thinking this, he suddenly pulled Fan Jing back and threw him heavily onto the sofa. Seeing him advance, Fan Jing anxiously asked what he was doing. Yuzhuo sadly said that he too thought it was just a fling, but now he couldn't stop thinking about him, so he couldn't irresponsibly leave like this. After speaking, he leaned down and kissed the person beneath him. Fan Jing widened his eyes in shock, then forcefully raised his hand and slapped Yuzhuo across the face. He sternly told him to be sensible and not to make him lose more respect for him. But Yuzhuo felt it was he who was not being sensible. He should think about how happy they were together in the past. After saying that, he pushed him down on the sofa again. Fan Jing quickly asked what he intended to do. Listening to the question, Yuzhuo softly said that he would make him remember the past and realize he couldn't live without him. Fan Jing struggled fiercely, but Yuzhuo still managed to rip his clothes off. As he reached his hand in, Fan Jing hurriedly told him to stop, sternly told him to let go immediately, and cursed him as a beast. However, by this point, Yuzhuo had already lost his reason. He caressed Fan Jing's head, telling him not to deceive himself and others. He wanted the other party to understand that only he knew him best, and only he could make him happy. Fan Jing realized that no matter how he tried to escape, the other party kept reminding him that it was he who had come to him, becoming a toy without dignity. Those people were right, he was not cut out for the glitz and glamour. It was all his own doing. Perhaps his very existence was a mistake. Thinking this, he shed tears, but Yuzhuo did not notice. He just wanted to prove that Fan Jing couldn't leave him. He didn't want him to go to someone else. Thinking this, he looked affectionately at the person beneath him, only to find that the other's face was already covered in tears. Seeing this, Yuzhuo suddenly woke up and hurriedly released his grip on the other's hand. He didn't know what had come over him to act so irrationally. He quickly said he didn't want to force him. Fan Jing sat up and asked why he didn't continue. After all, the connections and resources he provided were just for his body, weren't they? Hearing this from Fan Jing made Yuzhuo's heart ache. He had given him resources to make him happy. Hearing this, Fan Jing pushed him away impatiently, telling him to get lost, and said he would never be happy just by seeing him. Yuzhuo, heartbroken, asked if his efforts were all worthless in his eyes. But Fan Jing felt that someone like him simply didn't understand what it meant to give, and told him to take his charity elsewhere, just like before. Yuzhuo, distressed, covered his mouth, lamenting that Fan Jing knew exactly how to reject him in the most hurtful way. Then, stubbornly, he admitted that he had indeed been like this all along. Seeing the other person tidying up their clothes and walking away without looking back, Yuzhuo hurriedly asked if things could start over and he truly treated him well, would they not end up breaking up? But Fan Jing turned around only to tell him he wished they had never met. After speaking, he slammed the door and left. Watching the direction Fan Jing left in, Yuzhuo painfully covered his face, realizing the other had lied about never leaving him. On the other hand, Wu Yan found General Chen. His sensible and understanding nature pleased the general, who indicated he would take good care of him in the future. Hearing this, Wu Yan extended his hand, teasing the other and saying he has a request right now. Seizing the moment, General Chen grabbed his hand, happily stating he likes straightforward kids. Wu Yan told him he had a difficult senior named Fan Jing, knowing his family situation. Seeing Wu Yan had something on Fan Jing, and remembering the trouble Fan Jing and Yuzhuo caused him, General Chen thought of using Wu Yan for revenge. Thus, he suggested changing locations to talk properly. Wu Yan verbally agreed, but inside felt it was uncertain who was using whom. 2 days later, Fan Jing's father came looking for him. Fan Jing was curious why his father came, but the latter said he was just checking on him, raising the items in his hand, telling Fan Jing these were vegetables and meat he brought for him. From a distance, observing Wu Yan saw things progressing smoothly, and with a mischievous smile, stated that the next game was about to begin. Fan Jing always felt something was off about his father's demeanor. He pushed aside the things his father brought, asking him not to beat around the bush. Sure enough, his father began asking for money. He said the shop had some financial issues and the previous high-interest loan hadn't been paid off. Fan Jing turned his face away, saying he had no money. This infuriated his father, who loudly asked if he intended to abandon him like his mother did. Unbeknownst to them, everything was captured by a nearby paparazzi, who happily stated they would write a good article to gain traction. Seeing his father shouting outside, Fan Jing reluctantly agreed to let him come upstairs to avoid disturbing the neighbors. Once inside, his father expressed his desire to stay there to avoid debt collectors. Fan Jing grabbed him and told him not to enter any rooms, explaining he only let him up to clarify that he also had career and financial problems. He had no money for him. Seeing that Fan Jing didn't want to be his cash machine, his father grabbed his shoulders and angrily asked if he was rebelling. Just as Fan Jing realized his father's state of mind was problematic, he was pushed down, and his father claimed someone had told him about Fan Jing's affairs. His father then asked about the last boss Fan Jing encountered and how long he had to sleep with him, slapping Fan Jing across the face and saying no wonder the boss was so generous in paying for him. His father then choked Fan Jing, cursing him for making big money by sleeping around yet not willing to spend any on him. The suffocating feeling made Fan Jing struggle to breathe. His father, seemingly possessed, said that since Fan Jing wanted to drive him to death, he wouldn't let Fan Jing have it easy either. Fan Jing felt so much pain from the lack of air. He wondered who would care if he died here. It was truly pathetic. Struggling, he reached for the family photo on the table. He smashed it against his father's head forcefully. As his father let go, Fan Jing threatened to call the police if he didn't leave. Fearful, his father said he would come back again. Seeing himself finally safe, Fan Jing's hands couldn't stop trembling. He looked at the photo in his hands, covered his face, and wept bitterly, not understanding why everyone had to treat him this way. He couldn't figure out what he had done wrong. Meanwhile, Yuzhuo was drowning his sorrows with friends at a bar. Someone by his side held his arm, trying to please him by offering an apple, but he didn't want to pay any attention. People around could only look at him awkwardly seeing him like this. His friends teased Fan Jing, saying that he doesn't even look at a beauty offered to him on a platter, wondering if he was still hung up on the recently broken up little star. Then, they asked Zhang Yu if Yuzhuo and Fan Jing were just playing around. At this moment, all Zhang Yu wanted was to be less noticeable. Originally, he thought it wasn't a big deal, but seeing Yuzhuo's dejection, he realized this time was different. However, the beauty beside him didn't give up and continued to act coquettishly, hoping he would pay her some attention. Hearing the beauty call him Yuzhuo, he instantly remembered how Fan Jing used to call him, and the pain in his heart resurfaced. He pushed the person beside him away, but ended up bumping into someone else. The man he bumped into stepped forward, grabbed Yuzhuo's collar, and told him he had dirted his clothes, asking how he intended to compensate. But Yuzhuo just told the person to get lost, saying he was not in the mood to deal with him right now. This comment directly infuriated the man, who threatened to teach him a lesson, and then punched him in the face. Seeing that everyone wanted to teach him a lesson and thought he was the one who screwed everything up, Yuzhuo laughed. Since everyone thought he was beyond help, he decided to show them he was beyond help. Saying this, he kicked the man away. Seeing that the situation was out of control, Zhang Yu quickly called Fan Jing, telling him that Yuzhuo was not in a good state and hoping he could come over. Before he could finish speaking, Fan Jing said that he had nothing to do with Yuzhuo and not to contact him about his matters anymore. There was no other way. Zhang Yu could only go to Yuzhuo himself to comfort him. After hanging up the phone, Fan Jing irritably lay down on the sofa. At this moment, the doorbell rang again. He got up to open the door, and it turned out to be the police. The police showed their badges and hoped Fan Jing could cooperate with the investigation. However, at this time, Fan Jing still didn't know what had happened. Early the next morning, Zhang Yu anxiously knocked on Yuzhuo's door. After opening the door and seeing Zhang Yu, Yuzhuo was very puzzled and asked why he was at his house. Zhang Yu followed Yuzhuo into the house, saying that he came to clean up for him and complained about the smell of alcohol. He just wanted to ask if Yuzhuo was trying to drown himself in alcohol when Yuzhuo told him to speak up if he had something to say, otherwise get out. Zhang Yu then remembered why he came and, after calming him down, told him, Fan Jing is in trouble. Hearing this, Yuzhuo immediately got anxious, grabbing him and asking him to explain. Zhang Yu said that Fan Jing's father had died, and the body was just fished out of the river last night. The police had not yet reached a final conclusion. However, someone had captured him arguing with Fan Jing before the incident, and public opinion pointed to Fan Jing as the murderer, so the police took Fan Jing away. Hearing this, Yuzhuo could no longer sit still and stood up to go to the police station, but Zhang Yu told him not to be impulsive. Yuzhuo knew there must be a misunderstanding and that it must be something done by Fan Jing's father. He wanted to find out what happened, but Zhang Yu told him that going there wouldn't help, and because the situation had escalated, he wouldn't even be able to see anyone. It would be better to wait for the police investigation. She then reminded him to pay attention to the public opinion, as neglecting it could truly harm Fan Jing. Although Yuzhuo was almost frantic, nothing was more important than seeing Fan Jing, but he knew Zhang Yu was right. Thinking this, he decided to immediately have someone investigate the source of the smear campaign and asked Zhang Yu to accompany him to the company later. While speaking, he asked Xiao Lu to check on Dongyan's recent activities. Seeing Yi Xuanxiao's fluctuating emotions, Zheng Yu wasn't sure if this was good or bad. The scene switches to the police station, where the police tell Fan Jing that the situation has been confirmed, but some verification procedures are needed, so he must stay for 24 hours. It was the first time the officer had seen someone remain so calm after their father's death, which he found terrifying, and another person agreed. The detachment of celebrities and their chaotic family relationships are incomprehensible to ordinary people. Fan Jing listened silently and did not speak. Meanwhile, Zheng Yu was in the office criticizing how unethical media outlets were for digging up all of Fan Jing's private matters. Seeing that Fan Jing's parents were divorced, his father gambled, and his mother had left home, Zheng Yu wondered how old he had to be to start earning money to support his family. She originally thought Fan Jing was just an arrogant star, but his family situation turned out to be like this. Zheng Yu felt he had it tough, but he thought that, in a way, it was good that his father wasn't bothering him anymore. However, Yi Xianxiao said he didn't understand. Fan Jing cherished relationships. The joint photo by his bed and the amulet were proof. Even if he didn't say it outwardly, he must have been deeply affected. Sitting alone in the prison, Fan Jing couldn't stop his hands from trembling, pressing down hard to no avail. Helpless, he could only silently shed tears. On the other hand, Zheng Yu found out that despite Fan Jing's cold exterior, he was actually a good person. She then started talking to Yi Yuxiao about the time she got drunk and Fan Jing came to pick her up. Despite the risk of being recognized at the bar, he didn't hesitate or complain. Seeing Yi Yuxiao's lack of response, Zheng Yu realized she might have misspoken. At this moment, Yi Yuxiao thought about how Fan Jing had no one to rely on since childhood. No wonder he grew up willing to be self-sufficient, enduring hardships without complaint. But for the sake of a bet, he had forcibly breached Fan Jing's defenses. Thinking back, he had no idea how Fan Jing had mustered the courage to take that step. He had trampled all over Fan Jing's sincerity and trust. Thinking of these, Yi Yuxiao covered his face in frustration, wondering what he had done. At that moment, his assistant informed him they had found some information. The two waves of public opinion were indeed related to Chen, the president from Dongyan. He also found the opponent's recent transaction records. Just as Yi Yuxiao said he wouldn't let Dongyan off easily, Zheng Yu looked at the photo of Wu Yan with President Chen and exclaimed in shock. Yi Yuxiao, who was taken aback for a moment, asked Zheng Yu who she had seen.